As soon as the words were spoken, Ginger just snapped his fingers, and the minister's genetic chain began to rapidly reorganize. Then, the minister's wounds began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. A large hole was directly blasted through his abdomen. Seeing this scene, the various leaders all wept. The minister was dead. But at this moment, Xiao He was in utter panic. "My lord, the minister of humanity can't die." And his soul was ripped out of the minister's body. In the next moment, the once invincible ancient man was completely turned into fragments. He never understood until the end why was Jiang Si able to so easily destroy him. And because of this, the minister was mistakenly killed by Jiang Si. "This time, I will defeat you completely." But Jiang Si calmly raised his right hand. The ancient one was blasted away by a distant force. As Jiang Si clenched his fist again, the ancient one in the distance twisted into a pretzel. "This ancient man is doomed. We have to run." Saying that, he used all his strength to flee the battlefield. The ancient one, unaware of how near death was, still had the audacity to keep fighting for so long. "Finally, you're here." "That's right. It's this face. The face I saw before dawn disappearing was this one." Looking at the zombie now transformed into its fourth form, Xiao He was the first to react, going insane. Absolutely insane. Not only were all the ministers dumbfounded, even the Blood Queen exclaimed that she had never seen anything like it. She even began to question whether this was still Jiang Si. However, the ancient people were not flustered at all. Instead, they were unusually excited. The sea began to churn. The zombie finally revealed his fourth form. At this moment, it seemed as if the world was under his control. The minister was shocked, his face filled with disbelief. "What exactly is this guy?" The ancient being, heavily struck, also started to slowly separate from the minister's body. He saw Mei Xiaobei. "This is the power of a zombie. Do you think creatures like this should stay on Blue Star?" At the same time, she saw that under the zombie's control, the seawater that had originally engulfed the ancient people actually parted on its own. Immediately after, the zombie flashed directly in front of the ancient person and delivered a heavy punch to his body. That punch actually blasted the ancient being from the Pacific to the Antarctic. At that moment, Lan Qi, with a single careless move, she actually fell directly into that endless abyss. Fortunately, at that moment, President Bang reached out in time and caught Lan Qi. But just then, Lan Qi suddenly looked shocked at a spot not far away. "He's even split the entire Blue Star in two." Seeing this, the great president was completely shaken. Inwardly, he felt a sense of relief, thankful that Ginger stayed behind in the city. Otherwise, even 9 lives wouldn't be enough to pay him back. Because the last time the zombie used this move, he was the biggest victim. At that moment, there was a loud bang. Ginger actually split the Earth's crust in half. Now even City H has been split into 2. This operation shocked not only the presidents of various associations, but also left ancient people feeling equally incredulous. As the zombie continued to exert its power, the fissures in the Earth's crust kept widening. The strong president was not only shocked but also felt a hint of fear. Lan Qi was stunned at the sight. What the hell is going on now? Meanwhile, the zombie had no time to worry about the shocked crowd. With a crack, the zombie finally found a pressure point on the crust. The various leaders hurriedly helped the citizens evacuate, just as Lan Qi was holding a baby and preparing to retreat. But suddenly, she noticed something was wrong underfoot. She looked down. The floor beneath her was rapidly cracking open. Ginger arrived in front of the ancient people. Before the ancient people could react, they were hit squarely by Ginger's punch. That punch sent the ancient person flying into the sea. As Ginger returned to the ground, she surprisingly wanted to flip the earth again. At this moment, facing the out-of-control Ginger, into a heap of scrap metal, even the massive moon trembled a few times, as the terrifying shockwave shot straight toward Earth's surface. The next second, all the company heads urgently issued orders to assist in the evacuation of citizens. At the same time, he then slowly said, "Sometimes, strength isn't just about size." The ancient people who heard this were still pondering its meaning when the zombie snapped its fingers. In an instant, the ancient technology before them shattered. The next second, even the moon was pierced with several holes. The zombie was also hit by the energy released from the ancient technology. At this point, the ancient being's face was filled with pride. Little did he know, his actions had completely enraged the zombie. The zombie's eyes were now filled with cold killing intent. Then it evolved into a mech wielding a giant sword. Its entire body exuded an overwhelming aura of menace. As his voice, filled with justice, pronounced divine punishment, he conjured several clones wielding giant swords, and all of them slashed toward the zombie's location. "So I will never allow such creatures to exist." With that said, he gathered an immense amount of lightning energy. Then, with a wave towards the moon, he declared, "Those not of my kind must be eliminated." Next, under the astonished gaze of the company presidents and zombies, the shattered ancient technology started reassembling itself. Does he look like someone who can coexist peacefully? Initially, zombies were just a weak group. Our ordinary planes and cannons could easily wipe them out. But then suddenly, this guy appeared. Our lives and deaths are now at the mercy of his moods. Why can't we coexist? He was interrupted by the ancients before he could finish. At this moment, the ancient people looked thoughtfully in the direction of the moon. Don't we also desire to coexist peacefully? But just look at his appearance. Not only does he create tax revenue for us, but he also brings us good development. Moreover, he hasn't harmed anyone, and he has helped us more than once. Humans are such zombies. At this moment, the ancient people on Earth witnessed this scene. Their hearts stirred with emotion. Just then, the minister's consciousness suddenly emerged and said, "Actually, Jiangxi isn't as evil as you say. The city he manages is better than the one we manage." It charged toward the head of the ancient technology. Then, clenching his fist tightly, he leaped high into the air. He delivered a heavy punch straight to the face of the ancient technology. The giant mech's head was blown off by Jiangxi with a single punch. It fell straight down. Just now, Jiangxi was sent to the moon by ancient technology. The ancient technology also followed him to the moon. It declared that zombies must disappear from Earth. Just as he was about to strike down, the zombie escaped through the gap. That's right. He must be eliminated. Then, amidst the astonished gazes of everyone, he directly arrived on the moon where Jiangxi was located. In a fit of rage, Jiangxi directly shattered the moon. He also turned the ancient people into dust with a single punch. At the same time, the ancient leader, merged with the big boss, said, "Look at your masterpiece of killing 1,000 enemies, but losing 800 of your own. Do you really have to get rid of him?" However, at this moment, the ancient person had already lost his sanity. After bouncing several kilometers across the lunar surface, with a loud crash, it finally came to a stop. But even then, the zombie's face was still filled with contempt and disdain. He directly struck at the ginger strands still in the air. Caught off guard, the ginger strands were sent flying by the giant's punch. That terrifying fist wind even caused a Category 12 typhoon in the city. Pedestrians and vehicles on the road were all blown into the air. Meanwhile, the zombie was blasted to the moon. The ancient person's momentum began to rise rapidly. "The last night before dawn, I see that this is not your final form." With that, he swung his fist, which was enormous. Then, under the shocked gaze of everyone, the four mechas surrounded Jiangxi in the center. This scared President Zhong so much he almost jumped up. This is too much. However, Jiangxi calmly looked at the four giant mechas. At the same time, but rather a bit excited, "Still not using your full strength? Looks like you still underestimate me. If that's the case, let's fight." He spoke and summoned three giant mechas again. The murderous intent in its eyes grew stronger. As it threw a punch, all the small coins in front of it were smashed to bits. Even the giant mech had half of its body blown off. Seeing this, the ancient man was not angry. The last one was torn in half by the zombie. Then these little coins were like cockroaches that wouldn't die. Under the control of ancient people, more and more small coins swarmed toward the zombie. Seeing this, the zombie clenched its fist. "I feel like we're just a bunch of kids in front of him. Such obstacles are in front of us." However, there was a look of disdain in Jiangxi's cold eyes. It was just a moment. The little coins blocking the way were all blasted into scrap metal. The ancient one scoffed disdainfully at the sight, and then opened several hatches on his arm. In an instant, countless small steel coins slowly emerged from the hatches. This immediately shocked both the Grand Chief and the Steel Chief. Could this be ancient technology? What on earth is this? Each one is crazier than the last. At the same time, Jiangxi also took advantage of the ancient one's arm to quickly dash upward, intending to face him head-on in a fight. Looking at Jiangxi's defiant and slightly disdainful expression, the ancient one was instantly enraged. "Are you looking down on me, you damn monster?" At this moment, Lan Chi below had already been shocked 3 times by this scene. Giant hand flying. This scene also shocked Zhu Xiaohong nearby. How did this guy's power become so strong? And although the ancient man lost half an arm at this point, but the pressure didn't lessen at all. The 5th generation was also forced to summon multiple clones. But after just one round, Jiangxi was punched all the way to the moon. At this moment, Jiangxi had just transformed into his 3rd form. With just one punch, he sent the ancient technologies. "Show your true self." Before the words fell, Ginger slowly raised the mech above his head. I could see the corners of his mouth lift slightly. Then he activated his long-lost third form again. The mech actually slammed its palm down on the arm. At this moment, the mech once again flourished. It had been 1,000 years. I finally waited for this. Ginger, what are you waiting for? The mech itself was starting to feel confused. But Jiang-Si was getting more and more excited. He strode forward along the arm. Just as he was about to reach the arm, a loud booming sound echoed again. How shallow. But at that moment, under his fingertips, Jiang-Si instantly unlocked her second form. She randomly started spinning on the spot, like a whirlwind of love. In the next moment, the mech's entire arm began to spin like a tornado. But with a loud bang, their attacks were completely blocked. Then in an instant, he was twisted up like a pretzel by the force. At this moment, the ancient man mocked, "We've studied zombie genes for centuries, and you two women use them as stimulants." Because he quietly noticed that the demonic claw from earlier seemed to be lifted by something. It turned out that the zombie was desperately holding it up with the mech's fingertips. Seeing this, the two members of the Big O-Pi team rushed towards the mech itself. Both fighters unleashed a full-powered strike. As soon as the words left their lips, the minister began to radiate light, and the scene that followed left everyone there in shock. For at that moment, the minister had transformed into a radiant golden warrior, standing tall above the head of the Iron Giant. But at this moment, Xiling suddenly became startled. It was none other than the minister who had been practicing the Iron Mountain technique. The minister once again questioned the Ancient Ones about their true purpose in doing this. But the Ancient Ones just smiled lightly. They told him that it was all for the sake of humanity. "Your sacrifice is worthwhile," they said. The two brawling fighters suddenly turned their heads. A gigantic Iron Giant, as large as the blue planet, was standing above it. And above the Iron Giant's head, a faint figure was standing there. Upon closer look, just as it was about to leap into the air, it unexpectedly found a claw reaching from the sky. It regarded it as a plaything. The massive claw instantly contracted, firmly gripping the zombie in its hand. Everyone gazed at the giant object in the sky, lost in thought. But in an instant, the buildings in front of everyone were swept away. The zombie was startled by the giant stones flying beneath its feet. However, it quickly began to dart between the large stones. With its own strength, it helped everyone escape from this place. I have been resurrected. Just now, accompanied by a loud crash that echoed across the land, a metallic foot descended directly onto Blue Star. In an instant, it was as if the sun vanished from the skies above the entire city. They turned to look over. At this moment, James was full of confusion, wondering what the hell is this thing. The next scene left everyone in stunned silence. Because at that moment, a massive claw descended from the sky. A deep voice followed. Then the voice of the ancients reappeared next to the minister's ear. "I'll be borrowing your body for now." Just as the minister was still in shock, a huge surge of energy suddenly shot into the sky. Everyone was drawn by the loud noise. "I want to know too." But Jiang-Si pushed her away. "That's too violent." But just at that moment, the malfunctioning Infinity Gauntlet activated again. "I can now feel my cells slowly being transformed by it." He crashed into the door. Hearing this, even the Ghost King furrowed his brow. "This woman is truly hard to kill." Lan Qi, seeing this, couldn't sit still. She grabbed Jiang-Si. "What exactly did you do to Xiling?" He said this and once again performed a perfect split kick, sending Xiling's sword flying while smashing down heavily. Immediately after, he aimed another palm strike at Xiling's sword. The sword, instantly empowered by the Ghost King's energy, swiftly flew towards Xiling. Just as Xiling rebounded from the impact against the building, the sharp blade once again pierced deeply into his body. Looking closely, it was Xiling, lying on the roof with a serious expression. And right at that moment, the Ghost King followed closely behind. "Even if you have a second form, what can you do to me?" Lan Qi furrowed her brows tightly at this moment. He still isn't dead after all that. Meanwhile, the minister is practicing with the iron fan cuffs. "Why can't I get these stupid gloves off?" At that moment, a beam of light again landed on the rooftop, effortlessly dodging the fatal blow, then reappeared, completely unharmed, high in the sky. Everyone who saw this scene gasped in shock. "This is beyond absurd," it's outrageous. Outrageous to the extreme. She even thought both of their attacks had room for improvement. As Xiling unleashed her full power strike, the dark clouds in the sky instantly dissipated. Even the city in front of him was split in half by a single slash. But the Demon King did a full 180-degree flip. She immediately took a defensive stance. In the next moment, Xiling swung the intestines in her hand. She kicked forcefully towards Zhu Xiaohong. This scene almost shocked Lan Qi and the others out of their wits. Meanwhile, Jiang Xi watched the battle between the two with admiration. At the same time, she charged straight towards Zhu Xiaohong. After their first exchange, Xiling was unexpectedly unable to withstand Zhu Xiaohong. She was hit squarely in the face with a punch. Then Xiling quickly pulled back and surrounded herself. Seeing this, Zhu Xiaohong immediately fired a few arrows at her. In an instant, countless sharp sword energies appeared in front of the building. The next second, the building was directly cut to pieces. Xiling was not the least bit flustered upon seeing this. She raised her hand and split the building, blocking her path in two with a single sword strike. Today it's either you or me. At the same time, Jiangxi and Xiao He also moved to a safer place to watch the fight. Even Lan Qi brought the president here. At this moment, Xiling charged toward Zhu Xiaohong in an attack. At this moment, he shot a fierce glare at Xiling. Come on, let's keep playing. Seeing this, Xiling also looked at Zhu Xiaohong more seriously. Immediately, she took a battle stance. Alright, come on. Meanwhile, Zhu Xiaohong was completely enraged. With just a slight move, the sky suddenly turned dark and cloudy. It felt as if the heavens were submitting to him. Qi Weiya was no less formidable than Jiang Xi. As soon as she said that, the minister was stunned for a moment, then immediately started controlling the golden gauntlet again. Zombie after zombie. This time I will destroy you for sure. But this move immediately got him a scolding from Lan Qi. At the same time, Xiling finally spoke up about that fool, saying you're a 1,000-year-old monster. Sure enough, you can't be described with common sense. At the same time, Jiang Xi also sensed that Zhu Xiaohong was serious this time. After saying that, he pulled Xiao He to switch places and watch. At the same time, he reminded the club presidents that it was dangerous here. He told them to leave quickly. A more heroic and valiant Zhu Xiaohong appeared before everyone. Xiling quietly watched him, her heart completely calm. Meanwhile, the president, who had been watching, was stunned by the spectacle. Are those two still human? The surrounding blood began to pulse. Immediately, the Blood Queen's genes began to restructure. The next second, countless streams of blood gathered in the sky. His bones and muscles regenerated. It took only a moment. As a king of a race, I don't think you'd end up this miserably, right? Or are you planning to ambush me when I lower my guard? Sure enough, just as her words fell, but more so about why Xiang Zilin ended up like this. However, the president showed no expression. Instead, they looked at the battlefield with even more focus. Sure enough, Xiling didn't show any joy of victory at this moment. Instead, she turned to look at where Zhu Xiaotong had fallen. At this moment, the soldier reported to President Xiling. They cut out all of that woman's cells. The president was shocked upon hearing this. A whole year? Is this a joke? Lan Qi was equally incredulous. Some were happy, while others were sorrowful. Although the president of humanity looked shocked, at least humanity won the battle. On the other hand, for the Blood Clan, they were all weeping and crying out for their king. At the same time, countless sword forms exploded inside Zhu Xiaohong. What's even more terrifying is that even the cells within her body were shattered by the blow. In the next second, Zhu Xiaohong's entire body exploded like fireworks. Then get through me before you deal with the zombie. The corpse does not recognize the beheading. In the next second, the two appeared behind each other simultaneously. But as the camera zoomed in, it was revealed that Zhu Xiaohong had been cleaved in half. With a shout, he swung down at Xiling. Xiling, seeing this, remained calm. She gripped her long blade tightly. In the next second, she slashed her palm and enchanted her weapon. Since that's the case, in the next moment, she charged straight at Zhu Xiaohong. You're right, idiots have no place here. But I just wanted to get revenge on that Jiangxi guy. What's wrong with that? Instead, she kept fighting up close. If you're lamenting life, you'd better head home early. As soon as Xiling finished speaking, Zhu Xiaohong conjured a blood sword in her palm. Jiangxi remained calm, as if everything was within his expectations. At this moment, Zhu Xiaohong was utterly furious. Why do you keep ruining things for me, again and again? Xiling ignored his muttering. The faint pressure distorted the air slightly. This scene completely stunned everyone in the meeting room. On the other side, Xiao Xiao was laughing playfully while looking over. So it's not just me. Even Xilingji can change forms too. The next second, her pupils suddenly contracted sharply. Though Xiling was just standing still, an overwhelmingly terrifying aura surrounded him, and he had also taken on a completely new appearance. Transformed, Xiling stared intently at Zhu Xiaohong. On the other side, Xiling suddenly swung her left hand backward. In an instant, countless terrifying auras gathered around Ziling's body. The almost tangible pressure made the group of presidents nearly suffocate. Even the robust Zhu Xiaohong was a bit dazed. It was the first time in her 1,000 years of life encountering such a situation. "I'll gladly play with you in the second form." As fragments of skin from her face gradually fell off, Ziling became more and more deranged. Lan Qi and the big boss looked horrified at the sight. "What is he doing?" Zhu Xiaohong was startled for a moment. "Something fun." They saw Xiling's body slowly emitting a powerful aura. Then her eyes turned completely red. "Since you want to play, I admit you're strong. Even the current me can't beat you. But if you say you'll use him to defeat that brainless guy, I don't agree. So next, I'll show you something fun. So I advise you to leave quickly. Don't get in the way. Several club presidents will be shocked for a whole year. What is going on today? Why does everyone seem like they've seen a ghost?" Yet Ziling remains unfazed. "But unfortunately, you're not the one I'm looking for. I'm here to settle the score with that zombie." With that, she unleashed an unprecedented killing intent. "I've waited 1,000 years for this moment. I could easily crush you with my own strength." When did Xiling become so powerful? And what's wrong with him today? It's like he's a different person. At this moment, Zhu Xiaohong also realized. "So you've been enhanced as well." Seeing this, Xiling naturally wouldn't back down. As she swung her blade, even the president's base was cut in half. This move completely left the president stunned. "That's way too intense." All of his clones vanished after that kick. The girl was completely stunned. Is this guy really human? At that moment, on the other side, Zhu Xiaohong just lightly waved her finger. The city in front of her was directly severed in half. He shouted, "Blood clone." The next moment, countless clones emerged from his body. The girl showed no fear at all. "What can a little distraction do to me?" With that, she kicked his real body with pinpoint accuracy. The spectators were shocked for a whole year. Since when did Xiao Xiao become this strong? At this moment, the vampire girl was knocked off her feet. After stabilizing her posture by using the force, she forced a few drops of blood from her palm. Watching the vampire girl fly through the air, Xiao Xiao struck a prone position on the ground. The limbs were gathering strength. In the next second, a burst shot straight into the air. The vampire girl took a light punch like this. "Then prove it." As soon as the words were spoken, the girl leapt directly onto Xiao Xiao's head. But just as her attack was about to land on him, Xiao Xiao raised his leg high and kicked her away. "What the heck is this? He can even create clones." At that moment, the girl said again, "I'm not some small fry. Just because I gave you face, you really think I'm easy to mess with?" Xiao Xiao sneered disdainfully. If that's the case, she remained as arrogant as ever. "After all, we're all women. Don't look down on others." With that, he broke free with an elbow strike. Immediately, his body transformed into two clones. Xiao Xiao was also stunned by this sudden turn of events. At that moment, the three stood there, staring at each other from a distance. The other leaders watching were all stunned. What is happening? What did I miss while I was unconscious? At this point, even though the vampire girl was being held up, Zhu Xiaohong heard the commotion and looked over. But there was a hint of confusion on her face. She saw Xiao Xiao holding the vampire girl like a chick. He boldly declared that anyone who watches the video without liking it will be next. What's even happening? Meanwhile, the vampire girl was just about to save the blue-collar guy, but she was immediately held down by Xiao Xiao. Looking closely, Xiao Xiao had also entered a slippery state by now. The two stared at each other from a distance. Zhu Xiaohong cursed, "Who's here to ruin my plans?" Xiling hoisted her long blade and looked down at Zhu Xiaohong. "From now on, your opponent is me." This scene shocked everyone. Zhu Xiaohong suddenly felt a surge of killing intent from behind. It turned out to be the already liquefied Z. Then, Xiling swung the long blade in her hand toward Zhu Xiaohong. Fortunately, Zhu Xiaohong sensed it in time. She narrowly dodged Xiling's strike. But what a pity. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhu Xiaohong's body started to blur. In the next second, he flashed in front of the minister, and prepared to deliver the final blow. But just then, "I have to say, you are the strongest human I have seen in nearly 1,000 years. If you were born 1,000 years ago, and relied on this kind of broken technology, it's still uncertain who will have the last laugh." The minister ignored Zhu Xiaohong. "But I cursed as I looked at the already ruined golden gauntlet. What a piece of junk, useless ancient technology. I would have been better off doing it myself. This was said by Zhu Xiaohong again. Even the strongest human was almost unable to stand. Seeing this, Zhu Xiaohong looked at the minister disdainfully. With your little strength, you dare to challenge Jiangxi. Even distant buildings and cars were shaken by the blast. As the smoke cleared, the once mighty golden armor was reduced to scrap metal. The minister was also blasted to the distant building by Zhu Xiaohong. With this strike, in an instant, two figures rapidly rushed toward each other. At the moment they closed in, both of them assumed their attack stances simultaneously. Then, two earth-shattering attacks collided in midair. The shockwave from the clash sent all the onlookers flying. The minister had already prepared for battle again, mobilizing the full power of the golden set, ready to settle the fight with Zhu Xiaohong in one blow. Zhu Xiaohong, of course, wasn't about to back down. With a swift turn, she charged straight at the minister. Do you really think you can handle ginger slices? Hearing this, Xiao Xiao and the others were utterly shocked. What does this have to do with President Jiang? What's the connection? And while they were contemplating, the minister also took the opportunity to create some distance. Then he looked at Zhu Xiaohong with disdain. Since you're seeking death, I'll take care of you first, and then deal with ginger slices. Haha, how much garlic did you eat to have such a big temper? It's none of our business. Just now, the battle between the minister and Zhu Xiaohong has also begun. In an instant, the whole city became their battlefield. After a single clash. Meanwhile, Jiang Xi and Xiao He naturally also noticed what was happening over here. Your Majesty, they're fighting. Should we go help? Jiang Xi immediately stopped Xiao He after hearing this, and said, let them fight. The queen was completely enraged by this punch. Immediately, she raised her leg high and kicked fiercely at the minister. Xiao Xiao and the others were shocked by this scene. Is this woman really that powerful and so direct? The minister, hearing this, directly told his subordinate, it's going to be chaotic. You lead the citizens and evacuate the city. Leave this to me. After saying that, he directly activated the full power of the golden suit. Then he punched straight at the queen. The queen of zombies, who was frantically searching, also noticed the situation here. But she didn't care. At this moment, she was just eager to find the zombie. So she directly said to the minister, human, I advise you to mind your own business. Rescue the blue-collar guy. However, as they rushed to the building, they were easily taken out by the minister. With a loud bang, the building was once again smashed open. Zombies, come out and die. Meanwhile, the Blood Clan's younger brothers have all arrived. They looked at the blue-collar guy and girl embedded in the concrete. They immediately ordered to take him out. The president of Wenyan also quickly shouted, it's that woman. She's the one who kidnapped Dr. Jamin. At this moment, the modified queen, full of confidence, laughed. Aha, I'm invincible now. But soon, the citizens were all shocked as they looked up at the sky. Look, there's someone floating up there. That's right. It's the newly transformed vampire queen, completed by Dr. Jemin. The minister, witnessing this scene, was also filled with curiosity. And who is he? But the minister said he didn't know what was going on either. Soon the sun was completely covered by dark spots. It was a rare total solar eclipse. Facing the suddenly darkened sky, the citizens were filled with anxiety. Ginger suddenly sensed something was wrong. She saw a black dot appear in the sky. In no time, it covered the sun. The club presidents were all shocked by the scene. The confused soldiers looked at the minister. Our city was given to us by them. Even so, Xiao He still refused to accept it, especially that blue-collar vampire. At that moment, meanwhile, Ginger had already brought Xiao He to a rooftop. Xiao He looked shocked. My king, why are you here? Ginger directly stated, you can't kill these people. This is the president's headquarters. What is Jiang Xi up to again? She thought. The minister's underlings were also shocked by Jiang Xi's strength. Seeing this, the minister decisively put on the golden gloves. The ancients were right, after all. The president is nothing but an ant before him. However, just as everyone was unsure of how to respond, Jiang Xi suddenly flashed in front of Xiao Wei, and without mercy, he landed a punch on Xiao He. The terrifying force of the punch blew everyone in the meeting room away. Xiling was speechless at the scene. Since you want to stop me from doing my thing, then you all can die. Curious, Xiao Xiao wanted to touch the black particles, but Xiling hurriedly called out to her to stop. You must not touch those black particles. And this guy feels even stronger than the one with the chainsaw. At this point, the beaten-down gang leader and the arrogant leader were speechless. Why are we always the ones getting hurt? Just then, numerous black particles suddenly emerged around Xiao Wei. It all happened in just a few moves. The surrounding gang leaders were all knocked away, and the most arrogant gang leader was sent flying straight back into the meeting room. Xiao Xiao and Zilin were stunned at the sight. Why do we always run into such tough characters? You arrogant zombie, aren't you going too far? Do you even know where you are? But just as he finished speaking, Xiao He kicked him right in the front teeth. Even the big boss, whose injuries hadn't fully healed, took a solid punch. This guy outside is not human. He is a zombie. Seeing a zombie swaggering around among humans like this, the company presidents, as the strongest human forces, instantly got upset. They all swarmed toward Xiao He to attack him. How did this happen to be here? Even Jiang Si has become serious. How did the usually steady Xiao He suddenly become like this? Just then, the little brother of the adult hurriedly came out and said, "Attention, presidents." Xiao He still didn't feel satisfied. Meanwhile, the dazed blue-collar kept shouting, "Give me a like." At this point, everyone noticed Xiao He outside. Ziling was especially shocked. Isn't that Jiang Si's underling? Before they could think much about it, a figure flashed in the distance again. When they saw who it was, it turned out that Xiao He had also followed the blue collar in pursuit. Looking at the door blasted open with a huge hole by the blue collar, rushing right inside. As the smoke cleared, they realized it was the blue collar worker who was punched away by Xiao He. Lan Qi and Zilin, watching this scene, were also confused. What just happened? At that moment, a mysterious figure suddenly flew in from a distance. With a loud bang, the figure pierced straight through the building, and it was heading straight towards the meeting room. Then he hurriedly turned his head to check. After seeing Jiang Si's naked gaze, the minister was instantly furious. Saying that, he quickly reached for the golden gauntlet. This left the presidents and Jiang Si completely baffled, and eliminated quickly. Hearing this, Jiang Si's expression turned serious. He also said that he would definitely help. But just at that moment, the chief suddenly realized he might have forgotten something. Jiang Si curiously asked, "So how do we use this thing?" The minister said, "It's simple. Just wear the full set of gold on your hand. Then just press the button in the middle. So we need to find this monster as soon as possible. Are there really such terrifying creatures on Earth?" The minister assured us it's absolutely true. And the ancients even warned that this monster is extremely dangerous. They told us to be very careful. At that moment, then he recounted what happened at the underground base. As his story unfolded more and more, the other presidents also showed disbelief on their faces. Xiling was even more shocked and expressed doubt, saying that ancient humans were all wiped out, or any strange bloodline woman. It's all nonsense. You agree, right, President Qin? But the minister said that dealing with Dr. Jamin doesn't require this thing yet. We need this for someone else. But apart from getting this complete set, all related ancient information has been lost. Hearing this, the mixed-blood president immediately became excited. With this ancient technology, who cares about Dr. Jiaming? Although they had heard of the deeds of ancient people, it was just something they'd heard about, let alone the fact that ancient technology still exists today. The minister indicated that this was obtained at the entrance of a certain canyon. Could it be the legendary golden right hand? Faced with everyone's speculations, the minister said this was ancient technology. As soon as he said that, everyone looked utterly shocked. Having said that, he glanced at the soldier beside him. The soldier who received the signal immediately activated the mechanism in his hand. In the next moment, a golden shining gauntlet appeared before everyone. The president and the grand president were immediately shocked. What is this? And right in front of them was the recently returned director. This is what the director said. I've already received the news of Dr. Jemin's escape. But before that, there is one more important thing to report to everyone. The force of this punch directly sent the foreman flying out of room H. The underlings were all stunned when they saw this. They all started shouting for help. Meanwhile, at the Guangzhou headquarters, all the bosses were standing respectfully, facing forward. His expression changed drastically. In the blink of an eye, Xiao He was already in front of him. "You think you're worthy of sitting as my equal?" With that, he delivered a heavy punch to Blue Collar's face. Upon hearing this, Lan Ling instantly became defiant. "We're both butlers. I actually want to see how strong you really are." But just as he finished speaking, as soon as the words were spoken, all the underlings immediately abandoned their cars and fled. Seeing this, Xiao He remained unfazed. "None of you are getting away today." But right now, the blue-collar guy couldn't care less about repair costs. He hurriedly called for the henchmen to split up and run. "Hurry back and report to the king. We've caused big trouble. I'll hold him off here." They watched Xiao He's monstrous power. The vampire henchman was completely dumbfounded. This is just way too outrageous. At this moment, the driver spoke up again, boss. The money we stole this time isn't even enough to fix your car. A heavy punch slammed down onto the ground. In an instant, the entire building and even the whole city of H trembled. The cars on the road also lost their gravity, floating in the air. Even the office workers unconsciously floated up. But the furious little black wouldn't let them escape so easily. No matter what your queen told you, if you want to survive now, just return the money. As soon as the words fell, the blue-collar guy saw this scene, and was so scared he nearly wet his pants. He quickly turned around and yelled at his underlings, "Run! Are you still waiting for a reward?" After all, he was the most mysterious underling Jiangxi took in around 800 AD, and almost fainted. He never expected that he would fall into the hands of his own people. At this moment, he looked outside the window with trepidation. Then came a scream. At this time, Xiao He also directly activated battle mode. However, the little brother looked innocent and said, "I don't know. I can't read." After saying that, he directly went to the scene to check the characters. When he saw that it was a bank under the control of zombies, the blue-collar worker rolled his eyes. The blue-collar worker, counting money, frowned and asked, "Who's calling me?" But once he saw the visitor and felt the familiar pressure, he was instantly drenched in cold sweat. He grabbed his little brother beside him and questioned, "You big idiot. Which bank did you rob?" He was shocked. At the same time, a sedan was slowly driving down the road. But as the blue-collar man excitedly counted the money in his hand, a voice that sent chills down his spine echoed beside him. Now, he no longer had to live a miserable life. But just after he finished the robbery and fled with his gang, Little Hay on the other side noticed the situation. Right after, a soldier hurriedly reported the situation to Little Hay. When Little Hay heard the bank had been robbed, Lon Ling, with his crew, angrily got out of the car. They rushed into the building and started shooting. In the blink of an eye, the police had everyone under control. Seeing the stacks of cash at the counter, Lon Ling excitedly stuffed them all into his briefcase. Xiao He still had the finance team double-check it. After all, as a loyal subordinate of the zombie, he absolutely cannot let a single penny slip through. The finance department immediately began tallying things up as instructed. Meanwhile, outside the Jiangsu Bank building, and we're professionals at robbing banks. Meanwhile, in Xiao Hei's office, Xiao Hei is enjoying his coffee with a satisfied look. At the same time, he is listening to his subordinate's financial report for the quarter. Although this month's total reached 435.6 billion, they even prepared masks and desert eagles. Seeing how worried blue-collar guy looked, the kid immediately spoke up, "Blue-collar guy, don't worry, I've checked everything. At this time, there will be the fewest people." But blue-collar looked annoyed. Even driving a car took forever. "You're even learning how to rob a bank." But he still got in the car according to the plan. To ensure the plan was foolproof, so they decided to rob a bank to improve their lives. But unexpectedly, they robbed a zombie bank. At this moment, on the streets under zombie control, blue-collar and his crew had finished all the preparations. Then a black sedan slowly approached. It worked. It worked. Finally, it worked. He was clearly the chief steward of a tribe. Yet now he could only pray to get through each day. The entire clan is only worth $1. There won't be any problem. The chief steward's eyes lit up after he finished speaking. He immediately agreed to the plan. Meanwhile, Dr. Jimming looked at Zhang Xiaoyan, who was soaking in the potion, and his face was filled with anxiety. But the next moment, he suddenly burst into crazy laughter. "We can settle the fight in 10 seconds. As long as we're fast, even rockets can't catch up to us. Grab the money and run. I guarantee with my speed. I happened to notice a bank when I came here. The people inside are moving as slowly as snails. It takes ages just to get a number. Wait half an hour. With our skills." In the end, this coin was still obtained from begging back then. At that moment, the younger brother beside me suddenly came up with an idea. "We have hands and feet. Why not do something on the side?" Now, the vampire clan has only a single copper coin left. At this moment, the clan's chief steward is even contemplating death. As the chief steward of the vampire clan, he works 10 jobs a day, but still cannot support this group of people, and even the zombie was to participate. The zombie was suddenly startled upon hearing this. "Who is this minister?" Meanwhile, in Dr. Jemming's laboratory, a young member of the vampire clan is squatting on the ground with a worried look. And the first target was surprisingly to deal with Dr. Jemming. After all, the world is so vast. Finding a zombie is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Meanwhile, Xiling also received the message that the minister was returning. She then notified all the cadres to prepare for a meeting. The minister still bowed deeply in the direction of the phantom. He expressed that we will definitely eliminate the zombies, and will not let you down. After doing all this, the minister then summoned his subordinates to prepare to leave. Ultimately, only zombies are our greatest enemies as humans. After saying that, it completely vanished. Only a boxing glove and the minister remained at the scene. Seeing this, the soldiers hurriedly put away the boxing glove. Although the phantom had disappeared, upon seeing this gauntlet, the minister and the soldiers' eyes lit up. Could this be ancient technology? At that moment, the apparition once again said that no matter what kind of groups appear in the world, your methods of physical cultivation, combined with the wisdom of the ancients, will surely allow us to completely eradicate the zombies. As they spoke, the stone wall beside them began to slowly open. Soon, a golden gauntlet inlaid with a sapphire appeared before everyone. However, the ancients claimed they were merely a virtual existence before dawn and couldn't play much of a role. In the past, people only focused on the development of knowledge and technology, never realizing that cultivating the body could also reach new heights. Because of this, your generation has given me hope. Hearing this, the soldier suddenly realized. The soldier asked, then, "May I ask, Senior, what should we do about such a terrifying creature?" This question clearly implied that he wanted this ancient person to help. Second, ever since he was born, zombies have always existed. Even the many academies established are for the purpose of combating zombies. But even though humanity has been pressing the zombies, they still haven't completely eliminated them. Realize that the zombies are the ones that destroyed humanity 1,000 years ago. The soldier's first reaction was to think that this ancient person was just fooling them. After all, the zombies looked like they didn't have a shred of attack power. But the minister didn't think so. First, ancient people wouldn't make such jokes. Even subterranean monsters could only sit obediently before us. But zombies remained something we could never conquer. Hearing this, the two curiously asked why. The cloaked figure slowly responded, "It's because for the infinite power of humanity." So humanity began to consolidate its resources. Soon, humans had achieved interstellar travel. Technological power reached unprecedented heights. At that point, even aliens were no match for us. But the next second, a zombie figure actually appeared in the light. It turns out that more than 1,000 years ago, there were only 2 continents on Earth. At that time, the Earth was divided into 7 continents and 8 oceans, with hundreds of countries. He felt it was his duty. "I'm just curious about how you all came to your end." Saying this, the figure. Once again, a phantom was released. For a moment, the minister was also nervously staring at the phantom. "But you have to promise me to protect human civilization at all costs, to become stronger." The minister agreed without hesitation. Moreover, as a part of humanity. Hearing this, the minister became intrigued. After all, this was something from 1,000 years ago. For a moment, they exchanged glances. The air was filled with tension. The figure then spoke again, "I can make you even stronger." At the same time, countless small spheres appeared out of nowhere, surrounding the group. Suddenly, a cloaked figure appeared in front of them. The sudden appearance of the figure startled the soldiers. At this moment, the figure spoke calmly, "It's my first time seeing someone with such a strong physique." A soldier suddenly noticed something. He saw a symbol marked on the ground. Curious, the soldier pressed it with his hand. But in the next second, the entire underground base began to shake violently. Moreover, most of the directors were severely injured. Their combat capability is significantly compromised. In summary, the current headquarters is very dangerous. Upon hearing this, the minister immediately instructed his subordinates to prepare to return for support. But just at that moment, the minister saw that the corpse had lost its research value. No further investigation. Instead, he asked about what the soldier had just said. At this point, the soldier recounted everything that had happened recently. In short, Dr. Gemin escaped after taking a tour in the prison. Now, he's nothing more than an empty shell. He has no research value at all. Another soldier, by observing the surroundings, discovered that a great battle had taken place here, and they were able to use such advanced warships. This shows that the monsters aren't easy to deal with either. It was the remains of an ancient person, with 134 fractures all over the body, as if crushed by some kind of monster. The most terrifying thing is that all human tissues were completely burned. That's why it hasn't decayed for 1,000 years. The soldier anxiously reported to the minister about Dr. Gemin's escape, but the minister remained calm, showing no sign of panic. It turned out there was something even more important in front of them. At that moment, a dark figure was sitting on the board. But unfortunately, it's now in ruins. At this moment, one of the soldiers received a message. He quickly responded. Then the soldier reported to the minister in the shadows before him. They had received urgent intel. At the same time, in a secret base underground, the explorers couldn't help but gasp in shock. They didn't expect an entire city to be hidden underground, and it seems the civilization was quite advanced. It was as if he did not belong to this era. Although Ranchi was unconvinced, he did not dare to be negligent. He indicated that the message had been sent out. The minister should have already received it. Yet that woman still let the traitor escape. The big boss also looks helpless. After all, the enemy we are facing this time is different from the previous ones. The nuclear bomb clearly detonated, but he was still suppressed by methods unknown to him. Don't worry. I sent it via satellite communication as soon as I got the news. And it's still a red emergency. But you guys are really something. So many people. And a voice-activated nuclear bomb. Over the next 2 months, Blue Banner visited the hospital almost every day to take care of the chairman. But the chairman was only concerned about the message he asked them to send before he went into a coma. Did you send it? Wenyan. Blue Banner got serious. Both of them looked speechless. Humans can be so sneaky. Looks like sometimes, you really have to rely on spies. Then Mushroomhead pulled out a syringe. Alright, let's begin. How did you guys get this thing? Turns out Xiao Xiao was bitten by a zombie earlier. Fearing she might turn into one too, she went for a checkup. Meanwhile, Dr. Jimming took the opportunity to have the mole draw a tube of her blood. Mushroomhead chuckled at this. Then he reached into his pockets. This little thing is nothing to me. Saying this, he took out a small jar of mysterious green potion from his pocket. This left the two little brothers shocked for a whole year. I'm not foolish enough to send you to your deaths. As soon as he said that, the two finally put their minds at ease. But what can we do if we don't pluck his fur? Zombies won't just come to us. Although your king isn't human, I've had successful cases like this. Now all we need is the zombie gene. The underlings were stunned upon hearing this. You don't mean we have to pull out a zombie's hair, do you? Can Jiangxi's genes really be used? Don't mess up our king's body. But Mushroomhead confidently said, please trust Dr. Gemin's research. He's the smartest among humans. Even Dr. Benjamin said there would be no problem at all. Dr. Gemin was conducting tests on the body of the vampire queen. The test results shocked Dr. Gemin because such excellent genes didn't align with science at all. At this moment, Xiao Hong's underling impatiently said, if you don't know, stop studying blindly. Ziling, furious, immediately asked the waiter to bring over 2 pounds of chili peppers. But unfortunately, the chili peppers had already been destroyed by Xiao He. At the same time, in a secret research base. Hurry up and change back for me. However, Jiang Si said nonchalantly, stop talking. I never said you had to accompany me. You volunteered. As soon as those words came out, this purple spirit tool, just pick it up. Brother Jiangxi, can you finish what you're saying before changing back? I gave up something very important to go on this date with you. But you turn your back on me like this. This is very irresponsible, you know. Decisively agreed to Jiangxi's date invitation. And when he learned about the mysterious power of the bloodline, even the worldly Xiling was slightly shocked. But just as he was about to ask more about the side effects of this power, Jiangxi suddenly reverted from his third form back to his goofy original form. Ziling no longer had a reason to refuse. Then I might as well accompany you to this meeting. But don't even think about doing anything inappropriate to me. Do you know what it's like to date a 1,000-year-old zombie? Xiling, in order to understand Jiangxi's bloodline power. When Ziling immediately stopped in her tracks. What do you mean, your bloodline power? Yes, my bloodline power. Aren't you curious? Given the circumstances, what kind of tour are you talking about? Don't think I don't know what you did to Governor Chen. After saying that, she quickly gathered her things and fled the scene. However, Ginger wasn't about to miss the chance for a private date. He then turned to Ziling's back and said, don't you want to learn about my bloodline power? How about we have a candlelight dinner first? Then I'll take you on a tour of my city. How about that? As soon as she said that, Ziling was startled. She hurriedly pushed Ginger away. But just at that moment, he was suddenly grabbed by Jiangxi. Since you're here, there's no need to rush off. I haven't peacefully coexisted with a human in a long time. I sensed that Zhu Xiaohong used her bloodline power. Upon hearing this, Xiling also looked astonished. It was the first time he had heard about the existence of bloodline power. He immediately prepared to leave. He reported this matter up the chain. As soon as those words were spoken, Xiling was once again shocked, knowing that this just happened less than 10 minutes ago. How did you know? Of course, I felt it. In a panic, she spoke about Dr. Jiming's escape. However, Jiangxi was not surprised at all. Isn't that quite normal? After all, you lot are no match for Zhu Xiaohong. Nini, since when did you live like this? Ginger chuckled mischievously. Isn't it quite interesting to occasionally live life differently? By the way, did you come to see me for something? At this moment, Xiling finally came to her senses. But at this moment, Ginger is leisurely sipping red wine. Xiling is here. Did you miss me, your great king? Seeing Ginger like this, Xiling was startled. I don't know what you're talking about. Then, ignoring the warning, they barged straight into Ginger's office. Ginger, something's wrong. There's some bad news. It's not a good time to see the king right now. It's too dangerous to go see the king right now. Why don't you come back a bit later? Wen Yen and Xiling were both confused. Dangerous? What danger? It's urgent. Quick, take me to your boss. However, just as she reached the door, she was stopped by the zombie's underling, President Xiling. Dr. Jimming was first taken aback. Then he revealed a strange smile again. Yes, of course you can. Meanwhile, inside the zombie building, Xiling was anxiously rushing to the zombie's office. Once again, I was scared to death by Zhu Xiaohong. This move shattered the onlooker's sense of reality. At this moment, Zhu Xiaohong turned to look at Dr. Jimming again. May I ask if I am now qualified to be your vessel? Looking at Zhu Xiaohong's eyes filled with killing intent and anticipation, the 1,000-year-old zombie actually wants to take Xiling on a date. He also wants to take Xiling to tour his city. This scared Xiling so much that she ran away in a panic. It turns out that just now, the poor little Lion King had just been resurrected not long ago. It seemed both of them were products of a previous civilization. But by now, it was already too late to know. Killing intent once again appeared before the Ghost King. In an instant, he threw the little Lion King out like garbage. At this moment, the little Lion King, who was lying solidly on the ground, transformed back into the fading little lion. Suddenly, the Ghost King frowned deeply. In that instant, the young Lion King realized the vast gap in power between him and the Ghost King. It was as if he woke up from a nightmare. His jaw couldn't help but drop, because this terrifying power was just like that of a zombie, lifting him up. Oh right, how did the zombie deal with you again? Upon hearing this, the little Lion King felt a sense of foreboding. Could he be like a zombie? The Demon King saw how easily the little Lion King fell apart. It's hard not to mock. With such little strength, how can you dare to call yourself a king? He then seized the little Lion King by the neck. Not only that, the little Lion King, who had just been so arrogant, was now being pinned to the ground by the Demon King's immense power. From high above, it was impossible not to see how deeply the little Lion King loved this land. A deep love. At this moment, the people on the surprise rankings again contributed their, grass points. The nuclear bomb, which had been sparking just moments ago, was instantly restored. Seeing this, the little Lion King was completely stunned. What the hell is this move? But the Demon King did not stop at this moment. He actually crushed a 10,000-ton nuclear bomb into a sandwich that little son loves to eat, about to explode. But the Ghost King moved like a zombie, slowly raising 5 fingers, his gaze fierce. Then he forcefully pressed down with his whole palm. A sense of unease set in. He wouldn't detonate the nuke, would he? Sure enough, the Lion King slammed his fist into the nuke. Under the massive force of the young Lion King's punch, the nuke instantly erupted in bursts of fire. Then, he gathered strength in his legs and deeply planted them into the ground. Immediately, he gathered strength with a sudden backward motion. He assumed an offensive stance. Several people gasped in shock at the young Lion King's actions. Then, it directly pierced through the several-meter-thick wall. It only stopped after crashing heavily into the mountainside. Feeling the strength of the Ghost King, the little Lion King couldn't help but exclaim that he actually possessed zombie-like power. However, looking at the tens of thousands of tons of nuclear bomb in front of him, he had a solution in mind. Seeing this scene, the few onlookers were shocked into silence. Suddenly, the Ghost King lifted the little Lion King again. An astonishing aura erupted beside them. The little Lion King rushed out like a runaway horse. Before the words were even finished, the distance between the two was already just a hair's breadth apart. They were ready to strike. However, the little Lion King couldn't even touch a hair on the Ghost King. Yet the Ghost King delivered a heavy punch to the little Lion King's face. The domineering Ghost King, who just made a grand entrance, immediately taunted the little Lion King. As a man, how could the little Lion King tolerate such humiliation without waking up? With a cold sneer, "So you're saying you're stronger than me?" The Ghost King, unfazed, replied, "I'm stronger than you by more than just a little bit. If you don't believe me, you can try." Not only does she land a punch on the Lion King's face, but she can also instantly reverse a 10,000-ton nuclear bomb about to explode. And then she compresses it into the Lion King's breakfast. Not just that. The little Lion King, who had just awakened, was scared again. his consciousness fading away. Someone who can't even touch a strand of your hair isn't worthy to be your vessel. Why not use my body for your research instead? I guarantee I will be your most prized creation. The vampire queen, who always persuades with reason, is now trading blows with the young Lion King. The moment he saw her, Dr. Jemin looked visibly flustered. Even the young Lion King felt a powerful sense of oppression. And at that moment, the queen calmly said, "Honorable Dr. Jemin." Both Dr. Jemin and Mushroom Head were equally stunned. What exactly had happened here? At that moment, a woman's figure quietly appeared. The vampire queen showed up in front of everyone with an air of dominance. And just as they were stepping out of the prison cell, the young Lion King was suddenly shocked by the scene before him. Lying in front of him were the bodies of soldiers scattered everywhere. Even the strongest fighter, the captain, had been destroyed, unable to move. And you still want to make him stronger? With his arrogant personality, I'm afraid there might be problems. But Dr. Jemin wasn't worried at all. Moreover, there wasn't anyone braver than him. As long as it's a device, there's no such thing as 100% perfection. But now, looking at the newly resurrected young lion in front of him, Mushroom Head looked worried. He's already this strong. Dr. Jemin and his group were nowhere to be seen. At this moment, the young Lion King was seen leading Dr. Jemin out of the cell. But Mushroom Head looked puzzled. Didn't they say touching it would cause an explosion? Why are we okay? There's a 2-second window after the power is cut. At this moment, the little girl stretched out her arm disdainfully, thinking human technology isn't much after all. With that, she unleashed her energy, blasting all the soldiers into ashes. Meanwhile, in the cell where Dr. Jemin was held, after realizing, he quickly raised his gun and aimed at the vampire queen. Immediately, he pulled the trigger, firing a burst at the queen. But the queen looked completely disdainful. She stood still, letting the bullets hit her body. Even when a bullet hit her eye, it couldn't hurt her at all. One of the boss's arms was knocked off into the prison's lowest level. At the same time, the others were slammed to the ground, unable to move. They didn't even see what had just happened. This scene scared the guards so much they shuddered. As soon as she finished speaking, the boss was the first to protest. He raised the steel rod and charged toward the queen. Then the two bosses also flanked the queen from both sides. But in just an instant, the vampires looked on with disdain. Then the queen spoke coldly, "I'll give you two choices. Hand over Dr. Jamin. If not, I'll show you my power." The two sides engaged in a fierce battle. At this moment, faced with this sudden situation, the several presidents looked grave. "Who are you, exactly? What are you doing here?" "I promise I will keep my word." The big boob queen finally meets Dr. Jimming, and the first thing she says upon meeting is that she willingly offers her body for Dr. Jimming's research. Just now, after the queen brought her minions to the underground prison, the little Lion King thought this was a good idea. "But you said you could make me as strong as a zombie. Is that true?" When Dr. Jemin heard this, his eyes suddenly turned cold. The little Lion King looked furious but was helpless. "But you don't have to worry. As long as you help me realize my dream, destroy humanity, I will take care of it myself. Although I am just an ordinary human, don't forget that you were created by me. Your life and death are only a thought away from me. Trying to play tricks in front of me, you are still too inexperienced. But between the zombie and you, your death matters more to me." Dr. Benjamin snorted coldly at these words. "Don't think that aside from zombies, you're invincible in this world." The company president is beaten senseless by the young Lion King. The young Lion King then steps over him and heads toward where Dr. Jemin is held. At this moment, the young Lion King looked defiant. "I hate you. You think I would save you?" The vampire queen looks at Charlot with disdain. "With just you lowly minions, you think you can stop me? Kill them all." Meanwhile, in the prison's lower levels, yet, at the same time, President Gangda on the 500th floor was also in a panic. What the hell is going on? Who would dare to break into a prison these days? Meanwhile, at the prison entrance, chaos broke out immediately. However, these ordinary weapons couldn't cause the slightest harm to these vampires. At that moment, one of the managers panicked and told everyone not to panic. "We still have 30 managers. They definitely can't break in," and was instantly startled. But he quickly reacted, "What the hell? It's a jailbreak. Hurry, organize the defense." Gunfire erupted all over the prison. Besides, the way to deal with brutes is to be fiercer than them. As soon as she finished speaking, everyone jumped off the plane. They all rushed toward the prison's opening. The manager below saw it. "Should we come up with a more detailed battle plan?" Upon hearing this, the queen's expression instantly turned cold. "There's no need. If we can't handle this trivial human trick, how can I still be your queen? Even the captain was taken hostage. At that moment, the furious Blood Queen suddenly appeared at the airplane door. Just then, a little brother rushed in to report. They have installed a self-destruct device on Dr. Jemin, so he can help her defeat the zombies. Meanwhile, above the prison, on a plane, the cabin door was suddenly kicked open. Immediately, a man armed with an AK took control of all the passengers. Get me out. I will make you as strong as a zombie. An ancient Blood Queen, now in a human prison, just to rescue the human traitor, Dr. Jamin. As the smoke cleared, the new generation zombie king reappeared before everyone. At the same time, the voice of Dr. Jemin echoed in his mind. Kill them all. The new corpse king suddenly opened its eyes. Then the laboratory was directly blown up. In an instant, the entire prison immediately sounded the alarm. The presidents on the other floors all looked stunned. What on earth happened? The man in the white coat swiftly injected the liquid into the new corpse king. The two, clueless about what was happening, were instantly startled. The president, realizing what was going on, immediately pinned the man in the white coat against the wall and then loudly demanded to know what he had done. But before he could get an answer, but the body remains. As long as CH247 is fused with the main solution in a 7-to-1 ratio, then we can find an opportunity to inject it into the new corpse king. A new corpse king can be created. Just as the president let his guard down and was about to go on patrol, how powerful humans have become. And just as they were discussing whether the little zombie was still alive, the white-coated figure behind them had already begun to prepare the secret biochemical liquid. According to Dr. Jimming, the new Lion King has only lost consciousness. The president sighed as he looked at the little zombie lying on the lab table, thinking how absurd zombies are. Even such a terrifying creature can be handled. And Dr. Jemin actually managed to create such a horrifying being. It's practically God-making. If only he could contribute to humanity. However, it was clear that his concerns were unnecessary. After returning from the city of zombies, Chengdu became mentally unstable. The city has also taken a default stance on zombie management. Meanwhile, inside the prison 3 kilometers away, he looked at the zombie before him, which stared at him like the Grim Reaper. Without saying a word, he jumped in his car and drove away. Watching the car fade into the distance, Go also pondered deeply, questioning whether what we did was too extreme. Would they take back the city? And upon revival, he blew up the 3,000-meter deep prison. Following Dr. Jemming's orders, he killed all the humans and broke him out. Just after Jiang Si showed off his power and returned to Earth, the sky and sea instantly changed color. The usually tough Chen Dukhat was so scared that he collapsed onto the ground. A sound echoed in the emptiness. Jiang Si returned to Nanqing in a cool pose. Then he looked at everyone and asked, "Did you see my power now? Did you see my strength?" The new generation of the Little Lion King has awakened again. Activate the level 1 contingency plan. In the next second, countless towering walls sprang up instantly. Yet even so, they could only barely withstand the impact of the tsunami. Meanwhile, in a certain sea area, only to be greeted by the sight of a massive tsunami towering above them. The two were utterly stunned by this scene. Whoa, is this the end of the world? At that moment, an alarm sounded again. A level 12 tsunami threatened human development. The tsunami instantly rose tens of thousands of meters high. Even Xiling and the others, far away in H City, were swept away by the sudden surge of energy. Before they could even recover from the shock, they immediately heard the warning alarm for a level 12 tsunami. Then, with puzzled expressions, Xiling and the others opened up. The next second, Go immediately set up a defense. But even so, Chen Duka was still knocked off balance by the shockwave. The next second, Jiang Si's attack landed directly in the Pacific Ocean. It was just a moment. At that moment, Jiang Si suddenly waved his hand. Then he tightened his fist with all his strength. The next second, Jiang Si unleashed all her strength and threw a punch at Lan Xing. This time, not only was Xiao Carla stunned, but even Xiao He and the others were screaming in shock. I can't believe such a thing exists. Even with various planets and moons in between, I can still see the overwhelming battle intent in the zombie's eyes. This is just too outrageous. Is this something a blue star creature can do? A dog immediately brought over the astronomical telescope. Chengdu Cha was stunned for an entire year after just one look. In the image, a figure on Mars appeared, and Jiang Si stood still on the Martian surface, looking down at Lan Xian. Chen Duchao was completely stunned by this scene, but Chen Duka was thrown face first into the dirt. By the time they reacted, Jiang Si had long since disappeared from view. Xiao Carla was so shocked that she began to stutter. "Where did your president go?" The people behind him were so scared they collapsed to the ground. What is he about to do now? In the next second, Jiang Si suddenly leaped, sending the group flying. Luckily, Ergo caught one of them. Blue Star instantly triggers a level 12 tsunami. It has even threatened the survival of humanity. And just now, the zombie's explosive aura instantly froze everything around. Seeing Jiang Si's domineering presence. What on earth is this thing? It can even transform. Here it comes. Here it comes. The zombie's full-powered strike is terrifying like this. With just one punch. Just as he was still contemplating what this statement meant, one of his underlings suddenly noticed that the stones around them had begun to fly. Immediately after, these stones all gathered around Jiang Si. In the next second, the spirited third form of Jiang Si was displayed before everyone. This sudden turn of events left the three of them momentarily dumbfounded. They saw Jiang Si's grim shadow reflected on the surface of the sea. At this point, a dog also came over to remind everyone to be cautious in case something happened. You will bear the consequences yourselves. It has nothing to do with us. Hearing this, Chen Dukai was also stunned. A dog also expressed a bad feeling. Meanwhile, Jiang Si was silently staring at the sea. The atmosphere became exceptionally terrifying. At that moment, an confused Chen Dukhan curiously asked what he brought them here for. But just as the words left his mouth, upon hearing this, Xiao He and the others were instantly terrified. They had lived for thousands of years and had never seen a human so eager to die. But the zombie led them to the nearby sea. At this moment, Little Black was already drenched in cold sweat from fear. But no matter how hard they tried, it will all be in vain. The zombie slowly turned around. With a sinister smile, it said, "So, you want to see my true power? I haven't seen any power in you to protect the city." As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Si stopped in his tracks. Meanwhile, Xiao He and the others were completely startled. The next second, they quickly rushed over to cover Chenduka's mouth. Chenduka suddenly called out to Jiang Si, "Though your ability to manage the city is indeed impressive. As the president, you need more than just city management skills. You also need to have strong enough combat abilities to protect your city." But from beginning to end, who said earlier that he's timid and cowardly? I really want to stab that bastard. The zombie, after warning the few people, turned around and said while walking away, "Go back quickly before I change my mind. Hurry and go back." But at that moment, yeah, same here. This pressure doesn't feel like it's coming from a human. This guy is even less human than the boss. Looking at the zombie's creepy smile, both lackeys were frozen in fear. Jiang Si warned the inspectors not to interfere with him. This terrifying pressure instantly frightened both of them into shivers. The entire street fell into a deathly silence. Then one of the lackeys quietly said, "How about we head back? My legs are going numb. I've made up my mind about this city. Not even Jesus can stop me." Here it comes. The rookie Inspector Chen is actually going to challenge the authority of Jiang Si. It turns out just now. Looking at the reunited trio, Ginger, with a dark expression, walked back to his side. Then, he casually said to Inspector Chen, "I know why you're here. But after letting you go today, no matter the outcome." As he spoke, the two also arrived, in the middle of the road. At that moment, one of Inspector Chen's men ran over. Seeing this, Ginger finally let go of Inspector Chen. "That doesn't exist. Not to mention, they aren't even human. Even if they were human, each of my subordinates is highly skilled. There's no way they'd let a civilian die unjustly." Then, to Chinduka's utter shock, the car was kicked all the way to the Pentagon. This left the bystanders gasping in surprise. But at this moment, Chinduka suddenly accused Jiang Si of murder. Jiang Si just smiled faintly. "Murder?" Facing the car about to crash into him, Jiang Si just gave a strange smile. He said, "We've always followed the law. If any rules were broken, of course, we'd just kick it away." With that, Chindu Cha leaped off the rooftop with a cup of tea. "Now, let's talk about public security." At this moment, Chindu Cha looked utterly disillusioned. First, taken to the skies, and now, dropped into the middle of the street, along with high-level white-collar workers and listed companies, as well as construction workers in the building industry. There are countless job positions across various professions. Just in my city alone, I can bring you hundreds of billions in tax revenue. The two arrived at a rooftop. At this moment, Jiang Si directly lifted Chindu. "Look, this is my city, over 2 million square kilometers. There are also new areas planned for expansion." Xiao He and the others were also terrified when they saw this. "The king is over there, let's go." At the same time, Jiang Si had already brought Chinduka to the city, with a bang, and instantly took Chinduka into the air. And his underling was completely stunned by the scene. "What the hell is this? How can it jump so high?" Meanwhile, Chinduka, who was lifted into the air, was panicking. "Where are you taking me?" Before he could think too much, he was grabbed by Ginger. Then Ginger squatted down, gathering strength, and said, "There's nothing much to investigate in this suburb. Let's go somewhere livelier to investigate." After saying that, she jumped fiercely. At this point, the zombie leaned in close to Chinduka's ear and whispered, "Don't worry, we don't eat humans." These words instantly scared him so much he almost passed out. It was too hard. Not yet. At this moment, the zombie said they had prepared a welcome for Chinduka. "We specifically prepared some gifts for Chinduka. Some top-quality canned chili eggs. Please accept them," with a smile, and with a snap of his fingers. Several small zombies immediately came, neatly holding the cans. "I just took off the mask. Got a problem with that?" Then he went straight towards Chindu. Frightened, Chindu kept backing up, shouting, "Don't come near me." As soon as these words were spoken, it instantly shocked a few people. "What? You're a zombie. But I remember you didn't look like this." Zombie Wenyan also jumped out of the car. Chinduja was so scared that he kept retreating. "Who on earth are you?" The zombie showed a strange smile upon seeing this. "I am the zombie you are looking for. Have you forgotten so soon? What just happened? Who was that guy?" The zombie was now standing on the truck, watching them like the Grim Reaper. Looking at this terrifying and unfamiliar figure. A zombie that ate chili is terrifying. He even lifted up Officer Chen. Then he immediately took him into the air. At this moment, facing the zombie descending from the sky, they were all dumbfounded. Chinduka, who barely escaped, was almost scared to wet himself. What just happened? It was actually a truck. And now, the zombie was glaring at Chinduka with a ferocious look. "Let me give you a tour," I said. "Possible, very possible." Meanwhile, Inspector Chen was just about to head to the next investigation site. But when he looked up, he saw a heavy truck heading straight for him. The next second, there was a loud boom. The zombie made a dramatic entrance. "Talking won't help. I don't know what to do either." At this moment, Aegon asked Xiao He, "Do you think when the king gets mad, he'll kill the entire inspection team?" Meanwhile, Xiao He also got a call from Ah Go. Upon hearing it, Xiao He's face changed instantly. "Didn't I hide all the chili peppers? I don't know how they found them. What should we do?" At that moment, Xiao He also had a stunned look on his face. "You and I." Upon hearing this, Ah Go broke out in a cold sweat. "The king can't eat that." The soldier looked confused. "What would happen if he did?" "That's the king's stimulant. He'll become extremely violent. And it'll last for a whole month." His whole body was trembling. Ah Go was startled and asked, "What did you give the king to eat?" Seeing Ah Go about to lose his temper, the soldier quickly explained, "President Jiang came back saying he was very hungry, so I made him scrambled eggs with chili peppers." As if deep in thought. At this moment, a dog suddenly appeared. "What happened?" The soldier said that President Jiang changed after eating something. He kept rambling nonsense. Instead, he suspected that the zombie had simply built a city full of madmen. He then directly ordered his subordinates to take note of all this. These are all materials for removing zombies. Meanwhile, inside the zombie building, a zombie crouched alone in the corner. This operation left everyone present confused. Chen Duchao was so angry he kept cursing like a madman. "Today, I have witnessed that there are actually people as stupid as zombies." But even so, he still didn't suspect this was a zombie. "Your hand just fell off." Before he could react, the little zombie had already run away without a trace. It only left behind a sentence, "This is a prosthetic limb. You all don't mind, okay?" Not only is it free to stay, but there are free eggs to eat as well. But in the next moment, his right hand suddenly fell down. Looking at the severed hand still posing victoriously, the shocked guy was stunned for a whole year. He quickly turned around and pretended not to hear. The 250 IQ Carla had no doubts and concluded that the boss was deaf and mute. Next was the second store. I wanted to ask President Jiang if he had oppressed anyone since becoming the city's leader. As soon as the guy heard this, he quickly explained that the king treated us very well. With an IQ of 650, Xiao He immediately sensed something was wrong. But at this point, they could only keep waiting. The investigation team on the other side also started their action. They walked into a convenience store and directly asked if there were any egg-shaped accessories. The boss was instantly scared and began to sweat profusely. Inspector Chen from Chengdu and his men began a secret investigation. The men behind the zombie were all talking about the minister. Logically speaking, the minister should be back from his expedition by now. Meanwhile, Xiao He and his group were waiting for the plane to land. But Inspector Chen never showed up. After 2.5 years, the zombie gets its head blown off again, and even lifts a heavy truck. It almost turned Chengdu into a meat paste. And just half an hour ago, only someone like the minister can lead humanity to prosperity. That kind of dominance, and the aura of being the sole ruler is what qualifies one to be a leader. Meanwhile, on the other side, the zombie is happily eating fruit but ends up being caught in the crossfire. Chinduja has biases against everyone. This statement naturally reached Chinduja's ears. I do have a bias against him. So it turns out that ever since the minister delegated power, any Tom, Dick, or Harry can become president. Seeing Chief Chen's grumpy face along the way, his underlings started quietly discussing among themselves. Why do you think Chief Chen dislikes zombies? Isn't it because zombies are cowardly and timid? No personality. Except for the minister. Chief Chen didn't choose to fly, but chose to take the train instead. This way, he could bypass the higher-ups and start investigating from the bottom. It would be easier to spot traces of zombies that way. Weren't you pets when you were alive? Meanwhile, they are still bitterly waiting for Chinduka. But on the other side, Chinduka had already entered the city. In order not to expose his whereabouts, Xiao Hei chuckled. Then you'll just have to endure a bit. Then A Mao and A Lang were leashed like dogs by Xiao Hei. Alright, we're all plants. Why are we the pets? They looked at the already disguised Xiao Hei and Ago. A Mao and A Lang were completely stunned. Xiao Hei's disguise is acceptable. Ago, yours is just ridiculous. But what can we do? 1 second they still looked like dark, grim zombies. And the next, they transformed into humans even 6 couldn't match up to. This shocked the little zombies beside them so much they practically spat out their essence. Meanwhile, after conveying the orders, A Mao and A Lang returned to the office. Moments later, Xiao Hei and Ago also grabbed makeup and started applying it. Even though I don't know if this will work, I'm sure the king has his reasons for doing it. Meanwhile, in the center of the city, the zombies who received the orders came to pick up the cosmetics and applied them. Strike a cool pose. If you don't want to go back to living in ruins, keep your facial expression in check. As soon as the words fell, everyone sprang into action. None of them wanted to return to that ruined city. When Xiao Hei heard this, he immediately issued the order, nervously. Ago, head to District D. Lang, head to Sector C. Move fast. Then I explained the whole situation to Xiao Hei and had Xiao Hei send the message out so the citizens could disguise themselves. Otherwise, if Chinduka finds out we're zombies, he'll take back our city. Luckily, at that moment, he noticed the cosmetics on a nearby counter. Without saying a word, he loaded all the cosmetics into a truck and transported them back to his city. Looking at the courtyard full of trucks, Xiao Hei and Mao were both utterly confused. At this moment, Jiangxi also returned to his city with a serious expression. Are now seriously learning human makeup, and they have directly transformed from ugly ducklings into human forms that are unattainable. It turns out just now, after Jiangxi learned that Chengdu Ti was coming to inspect his city, he instantly panicked. There are currently 2 major presidents guarding it. As soon as Dr. Jimming heard this, he immediately revealed a strange smile and said, "Just do as I say. You must guard our container well." A group of zombies that have lived for thousands of years. A listening device suddenly appeared on the walls of his mouth. At the same time, he quietly asked where the body of the new Lion King was being held. The voice immediately reached the ears of the man who had just delivered the food. Dr. Bing is currently in the mountain laboratory on the 200th floor, and it activated the automatic feeding function. The mushroom-headed guy beside him was startled. He was about to warn that the food might be poisoned, but Dr. Jemin had already started chewing it down. Right after he swallowed the food, he already has a plan for how to escape. Just then, a person pushed a food delivery cart in. After delivering the food and the smart delivery robot, the man left immediately. Only the robot was left behind. I can figure it out, but let's hold off on research for now. This is the world's most secure prison system after all. We are just ordinary people. But Dr. Jimming is not worried at all about escaping. If you don't kill me now, you'll definitely regret it. At this moment, Mushroom Head continued, the zombie is too powerful. Not to mention how to obtain its genes. The hardest part is figuring out how to create an individual stronger than it. Dr. Jamin gave a creepy smile again. As long as there's a body that can contain the zombie's genes. Not before they get my research data. They won't kill us. And before that, I've already had someone hide the data in a place even I can't find. These idiots. He's still thinking about the zombie genes. The guy with the mushroom haircut is dumbfounded. We're about to be executed. What's the use of him now? But Dr. Jamin calmly said they wouldn't. Meanwhile, in a certain secret prison, Dr. Jimming is tied up with 100,000 tons of TNT. The guy with the mushroom haircut is crying out of fear, we're done for. However, Dr. Jimming is not panicking. In fact, he starts smiling. Ginger came up with a bold idea. At the same time, Inspector Chen also arrived in Ginger's city. He snorted coldly, saying that a person without a surname doesn't deserve to be the president. We must remove this guy named Jiang. What should I do? What should I do? Ginger was so anxious that he almost started rolling on the floor. At that moment, his gaze seemed to find a lifeline. Looking at the table full of cosmetics. After saying that, she immediately hung up the phone. At this moment, Jiangxi saved Jiangxi without a word. But in the next second, he panicked. If this gets discovered, the whole operation is doomed. Jiangxi instantly broke into a cold sweat upon hearing this. But he still firmly asserted that he is actually a human. As soon as he finished speaking, suddenly, Xiling's angry voice came through. Don't think I don't know what kind of creatures you're running with all over the city. You know very well whether they're human or not. Xiling said with a serious expression that Chenduja is currently visiting your city for an inspection. He is our province's auditor. He specializes in auditing the lifestyle issues of various presidents. If he finds out that what you're doing is true, then he will definitely dismiss you from your presidential position immediately. Ziming's issue has completely spread, and he, who just became the president, is about to be dismissed. Just now, it turns out, when Xiling learned that President Steelblade had reported to the city inspector that Jiangxi built a zombie city to raise zombies, she immediately called to notify Jiangxi, and kept marveling at the prosperity of this human city. This city is truly prosperous. It's over. It's over. The zombies are really panicking. Raising zombies in a human city. Although Xiling said she didn't want to, her hands honestly took out her phone and called the zombie. Meanwhile, on the streets of another city, the unsuspecting zombie strolled leisurely down the street. President Khan reported to Chinduka, saying that not only is President Jiang a zombie, he also built a marketplace. Whether he's a zombie or not, I really don't care. After saying that, he showed a contemptuous expression again and said, I only recognize the strong. You're the one who's his partner. Your whole family is his partner. He can go if he wants. Why are you telling me? President Gun continued. President Gun was looking at him with a satisfied smile. Chengdu went to inspect President Zhang's city. Aren't you going to inform your little boyfriend? Upon hearing this, Xiling was instantly furious. Another group in the alley was watching the club leader's explanation video. The vampire queen was so shocked she froze in place. These disgusting humans are really shameless. And you even installed a self-destruct device. Meanwhile, how can it be scarier than me? He said that and ran off immediately. Left us with a, you guys are awesome. Then disappeared without a trace. At the same time, they'll still have to take a corpse back with them. Upon hearing this in his original state, Jiangxi instantly felt a tightness in his chest and broke out in a cold sweat. Humans can be utterly insane. If anyone gets close, it will explode directly. President Gun was getting more and more excited as he spoke. Even if someone truly fearless comes to break into the prison, it just means we'll die together. Anyway, even if a god comes, how can he escape? Even the strong Ginger was silent. Just in case, a giant tailpipe was also tied to Dr. Jimming. The explosive power is equivalent to tens of thousands of tons of TNT. Even so, this is just an appetizer. In addition, there are 2 directors stationed every 100 floors. With this level of defense, a total of 1,500 layers. The military strength reaches as high as 1 million. Even taking the elevator, it takes 30 minutes to reach the bottom level. Heavy weapons like anti-aircraft guns and laser cannons are all available. Since it was President Jiang who captured him, let's take President Jiang to have a look. After saying this, the group boarded the helicopter and flew to the cage where Dr. Jie Ming was held. To imprison Dr. Jie Ming, they dug a prison that is 3,000 meters deep overnight. At this moment, the zombie asked without thinking, aren't you afraid he will escape? Hearing this, the foolish president immediately laughed mockingly. He's tied up like this. Where else can he run to? Run to the sky. Why not just deal with him directly? However, Xiling said it's not possible for now. We must root out all the undercover agents he has planted around us. And we also need to find all of his anti-human research materials. They must all be destroyed. It turns out just now, a little brother of the Blood Clan suggested wanting to break into prison to rescue Dr. Jimming. And Dr. Jimming's image appeared before Jiangxi and the others. Seeing Dr. Jimming tied up on the screen, the zombies were also quite puzzled. That's him. He can make the king invincible. What on earth is happening? That even Jiangxi feels afraid. The Blood Queen was so scared she nearly lost her mind. The girl beside him also followed up. The queen, upon hearing this, immediately showed a look of astonishment in her eyes. Quickly, tell me who it is. Then the man directly took out a photo of Dr. Jimin. What's the point of summoning me, then? Right now, I'm not even qualified to shave him. At this moment, the man next to me finally spoke. The reason we revived you, it's because we discovered someone who can make the king invincible. Whether it was encountering zombies or humans, we all have to take detours. We haven't left this alley in a year. Look, blue-collar guy is almost turning into an idiot. The queen finds it more and more absurd. Ever since you were defeated and turned into a dried corpse by the zombies back then, they have wiped out our entire clan. In order to survive, we had to pretend to be dead to escape their poisonous grasp. Ultimately, under the tyranny of the zombies, we have not dared to show our faces for the past 1,000 years. Seeing this, the queen was furious. How could she have ended up like this? Why did you summon me out here? Am I supposed to be a beggar with you? At that moment, the girl next to me suddenly started crying. Your Majesty, do you know how we've lived these past 1,000 years? Jiang Si suddenly turned and glanced over. This terrifying pressure made the two of them shiver in fear. Meanwhile, in the rundown neighborhood, the once mighty vampire queen could only squat in the street, exposed to the wind and rain. She was even treated like a beggar by ordinary humans. Xiling burst out, angrily scolding, could your brain function normally when you transform? Facing everyone's murderous glares, Jiangxi promised he'd remember next time for sure. The nearby Steel Club president jumped up, calling Jiangxi a real piece of work. But at that moment, anyway, you all should be careful when going out these days. Xiling and Xiao Xiao were immediately shocked upon hearing this. My heart was in my throat with tension. But the next second, Jiangxi awkwardly rubbed his head, saying he forgot. Everyone was left speechless, collapsing to the ground. Xiling and Xiao Xiao quickly jogged over to ask what had happened. Did the zombie discover anything? And what was that blood clan you mentioned earlier? Facing their anxious questions, a look that had never appeared before appeared on the zombie's face. Did I somehow offend him? Meanwhile, the Steel Blade boss hiding in the corner was also scared out of his wits. I told you, I might as well have stayed at home. Anywhere with zombies is just too dangerous. At this moment, the zombie also walked out from inside. Heh. Since that's the case. But this scene left the steel rod boss shocked for an entire year. Impossible. That noise just now was made by that little nobody. What's up with Jiangxi? Why did he suddenly explode? But Zilin and Xiao Xiao are already used to scenes like this. At the same time, the zombie was also exclaiming how interesting it was. I remember I should have wiped you all out long ago. However, when Jiangxi learned that there were still blood kin in this world, he instantly transformed into his second form. All the guild leaders present were blown away by Jiangxi's aura. And just now, the smug club leader who was mocking Jiangxi as a minor player had the worst fall. The two who realized what happened were in utter disbelief. The consequences are severe. Not only did he turn the blood queen into a dried corpse, but he also completely wiped out all of her kin. Fortunately, some of the younger ones cleverly played dead and escaped. Now, they are secretly reviving their queen. Heh, blood clan. I remember wiping you out 1,000 years ago. I didn't expect you to reappear now. How interesting. Jiangxi is very angry. At the same time, Ginger suddenly exuded a powerful aura, which directly swept away the laboratory and the president behind her. The man was trembling in fear. Tears streamed down the corners of his eyes. The zombie revealed its long-awaited second form once again. Did you see something? At that moment, the man who felt offended immediately opened his mouth to confront Ginger. However, when he clearly saw Ginger's face, his pupils suddenly constricted. He felt a tightness. But out of a sense of responsibility, Jiangxi still dutifully examined it. Yet when he saw the wound on the man's neck, he suddenly shuddered. The people behind him instantly grew tense. Ginger strands. Could it be? He would have stayed home and let himself rot away. At this moment, Jiang Si had already rushed to the control console. The researchers then asked Jiang Si if he knew what this creature was. However, Jiang Si was completely confused. I don't even remember how old I am. And you're asking me to look at this thing? I really don't understand why their academy made him president. However, the knife club president was already cursing these reckless guys in his heart. How dare they invite him over? He immediately hid in a corner, trembling in fear, thinking, if he had known Ginger was coming. I heard you were the one who captured Dr. Jimming. Jiang Si, seeing this, also reached out and introduced himself. But just as Jiang Si finished and left, this tough president started mocking Ginger, saying he was just a small fry. The man next to him joined in, mocking him for looking so weak. He quickly entered the conference room. The moment he appeared, everyone's gaze immediately turned to him. At that moment, a company president took the initiative and greeted Jiang Si. Hello, President Jiang. I'm the president of Steel Rod Academy. Soon, a long black limousine arrived at the front gate of the academy's main building, and the person stepping out of the car was none other than the bald and handsome President Jiang Si. The moment he appeared, all the soldiers lined up neatly in 2 rows to welcome President Jiang, led by the soldiers. And although he's an ordinary person, he still injured 2 of our leaders when they tried to capture him. After everyone present failed to come up with a solution, Zi Ling said it looks like they'll need to call in a professional. At the same time, Jiang Si, far away in the city, received a mysterious phone call. How come I've never seen it before? And it doesn't even look like a zombie. The clinical doctors say he's a member of the research team from the neighboring province. When they found him in the Arctic, everyone else had disappeared. This time I will not lose to you again. Meanwhile, in the provincial capital of Guangzhou, all the presidents of the academies gathered together. Before them stood a human who was struggling continuously. Everyone looked on in shock at this scene. What is this thing? Is he still alive? When he learned that Jiang Si was not only alive, but also thriving, a look of shock suddenly appeared in his eyes. He muttered, Jiang Si, the true king of reality, eternally youthful, forever young. But the female ghost king just stared at them indifferently, then coldly said, that idiot surnamed Jiang, and revealed its flawless white skin. Meanwhile, the 2 nearby vampire humans hugged each other, crying tears of joy. At the moment the ice completely melted. The group of people all knelt down in respect, and loudly shouted to welcome the Ghost King. It turns out they are blood-sucking vampires just like zombies. At that moment, a huge ice block was slammed onto the ground. Immediately, the group of vampires eagerly wanted to break open the ice block. Moments later, the ice block began to slowly melt. Inside, the corpse gradually regained its vitality. Who exactly are you? Before he finished speaking, he was kicked to the ground. Then he said to the companion beside him, let's use him for the sacrifice. Moments later, the old man's arteries were completely drained by the strangers, and the leader finally revealed his true identity. Before the man could react, his carotid artery was drained. It happened in the blink of an eye. Everyone fell onto the ice and snow. The surviving president of the archaeology club was instantly flustered. You're not one of us. This was a posture that a 1,000-year-old mummified body could possess. But just then, a figure suddenly grabbed the man from behind, and that shadow opened its mouth wide, aiming for the man's neck. Then, without hesitation, it bit down. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be an intact female corpse. Her slender figure and flowing long hair made her look just like a living person. The president of the Archaeology Society and the man beside him looked completely confused. Was the strange expressions on the faces of the people behind him. Meanwhile, the crane also pulled up the dry corpse. What came into view was a huge ice block. Inside the ice was a dry corpse frozen for 1,000 years. He smiled and lit a cigarette as he spoke. He hoped this archaeological expedition could help with our research on the ancients. As the president of the archaeology club at the Academy of Paranormal Studies, this was the first time he had felt this nervous. But what he didn't notice, now, they are trying to lift it up with a crane. When the old man heard this, his expression changed from serious to delighted. If these really are ancient people, then this would be the greatest discovery in human civilization so far. Based on observations, it's estimated to be over 1,000 years old. The old man heard this, and his expression grew serious. At this moment, the man beside him continued explaining that it was discovered during a previous scientific exploration. It had been buried 500 meters beneath the ice. Countless helicopters and icebreakers arrived one after another. The elder leading them is known as the Strange Doctor, who specializes in archaeological research and excavation. At this time, the man behind him also began to explain. What has been discovered this time is a corpse. The zombie's girlfriend from 1,000 years ago finally appeared, and she can't wait to find the zombie as soon as she shows up. A moment ago, he was just an ice-encased corpse. Meanwhile, in the Arctic mountains. But this time, there's no need for them to slander. I don't like a president who has no personality at all. As for whether he's a zombie, we'll find out if we take a look. With a face that said, this totally unremarkable person would just be a random bystander. She couldn't understand why the Abnormal Human Academy made him the club president. Her assistant added that President Okada previously mentioned the Abnormal Human Academy hired a zombie as the club president. This is the person he was referring to. The blonde girl initially thought this was just mutual slander between their academies. It's inevitable that a group of road killers will emerge in the future, and as their leader, Lord Corpse King also enjoyed a brief moment of leisure. At the same time, on the other side, zombie profiles were being reviewed one by one. The one-eyed blonde girl looked at the zombie's profile. Zombie real estate. And there are also real estate agents and construction zombies. Even a zombie driving school has opened. But these zombies can't even tell the difference between the driver and the passenger. The zombies had completely taken control of the city. After assigning positions to his underlings, the city was running normally again. Not long after, the zombie costume shop officially opened. Next up is the zombie hair salon. After witnessing a glimpse of the power, he didn't care about anything else. As long as he could gain that power, he would do anything. At the same time, his assistant finally arrived. The man looked worried, thinking that President Xiling had forgotten he could control others. You let him bite you so easily. What if he controls you to do something unspeakable? Before he could finish speaking, Xiling interrupted him directly, and Xiling's arm had already been placed into Jiang Xi's mouth. Then, in a state of confusion, Jiang Xi forcibly bit Xiling. After finishing, Xiling quickly ran out again, leaving a confused zombie standing there in disbelief. After Xiling ran out of the zombie building, Xiling, panting heavily, locked her gaze directly onto Jiang Xi. Seeing this, Jiang Xi thought Xiling had come to give them instructions. She indicated that she was just about to go find them to report the situation. However, Xiling rushed straight toward Jiang Xi. Before Jiang Xi could react, Xiling pried her mouth open, and Xiao He, as Jiang Xi's most capable aide, naturally received an extraordinary position from Jiang Xi. He directly controlled all the finances of the zombie family. Just then, the front door was pushed open with a bang. She ran to the airport without hesitation. In just a moment, he arrived in the city where Jiang Xi was. As soon as he got off the plane, he headed straight to where Jiang Xi was. At this moment, in the lobby with Jiang Xi was assigning his subordinates to their respective jurisdictions. The zombie truly lives up to its reputation as the king of zombies. Not only did it bring its zombie subjects into human cities, but it also opened a zombie clothing store, a zombie hair salon, and even zombie real estate. And just now, after Xiling witnessed Xiao Xiao's ability to regenerate severed limbs, if she's feeling down, she can even give herself a shot of adrenaline and get stronger. And so far, there haven't been any side effects. Xiling was speechless, with a hint of envy. But in the next second, he made a shocking decision. He decided to find a zombie and get himself bitten. Even the gene chain hasn't changed at all. So how do you explain your 360-degree head turn and the ability to regenerate after being cut in half? Xiao Xiao doesn't know either. Says it just happens whenever she wants it to. And there's no discomfort at all. She keeps apologizing to Xiling. At this time, Xiling asked if she had turned into a zombie after being bitten. Xiao Xiao said she hadn't. Moreover, a comprehensive examination was done in the lab yesterday. All of her bodily indicators are normal. As Xiao Xiao kept closing in, Xiling weakly signaled for it to end. And Xiao Xiao has also returned to her original appearance. At this moment, Xiao Xiao is like a completely different person. Xiao Xiao didn't answer Xiling's question. Instead, she asked again, "Can I be president now?" After saying that, she flashed forward and threw a punch at Xiling in midair. Xiling, unable to dodge, was hit directly. She crashed hard into the wall. Before long, the small body had already returned to its original form. Moreover, it looked even more masculine. Seeing this, Xiling quickly stepped back to create some distance. At that moment, Xiling's face was full of shock. What did this guy do to you exactly? He even laughed arrogantly. Xiling was also stunned. Why doesn't he understand this? But soon, the small body rapidly recovered at a visible speed. Xiling was once again shocked by the scene before her. It doesn't even hurt when you slash me. Just as he finished speaking, Xiling swung her sword again. Before Xiao Xiao could react, he was cut in half by Xiling. But not only was he unharmed. Then, the zombie cells in her body began to activate endlessly. At the same time, Xiling slashed horizontally, directly cutting through Xiao Xiao's body. Yet Xiao Xiao kept mocking the senior. Didn't have breakfast this morning, trying to evade the attack. At this moment, Xiling gritted her teeth and said, "You want to be president? Then show me all your strength." With that, she charged at Xiao Xiao like a cannonball. Seeing this, Xiao Xiao let out a furious roar to the sky. "Can I be the president now?" Though she asked politely, her Gatling gun never stopped firing. Under this relentless barrage of fire, Xiling could only keep dodging. The little one announced with a sound, and directly raised the Gatling gun in hand. In the next second, Xiao Xiao unleashed a burst of fire at Xiling. At this moment, Xiao Xiao's face was full of excitement. "Senior Xiling." The little one eerily turned its head 360 degrees. The purple lily in the air was so scared that it jumped out. "This is truly unbelievable, can you believe it?" Then it quickly withdrew its movements and stepped back. However, in its terrified gaze. I can still fight. Ziling was infuriated by what she heard. With a flash, she disappeared from her spot. In the next second, she reappeared behind Xiao Xiao, ready to launch a sneak attack. However, just at that moment, and right now, Xiao Xiao is still in her zombie form. Ziling looked incredulous. It was as if she were a completely different person from before. Meanwhile, Xiao Xiao assumed a victorious posture, arrogantly saying, "Senior Ziling, aside from being able to rapidly regenerate her body unless cut in half, she can also rotate her head 360 degrees. And after the zombie settled his zombie offspring, zombies and humans entered a brief period of peace. But on the other side, Xiao Xiao and Ziling were locked in an intense fight. But the story of the zombies is far from over. The second season of the zombies has finally arrived. It turns out that Xiao Xiao is the ultimate powerhouse among humans. Ever since Xiao Xiao was bitten by a zombie, she's been able to freely transform into a zombie. I will definitely listen carefully next time. Please forgive me this time. I don't want to become dried meat." On the other side, the citizens cheered and thanked the king for our new home. Thus, the first episode of Mr. Zombie comes to an end. Let him continue hanging there. At this time, something was hanging from the roof of the zombie building. Upon closer inspection, it was A-Jun who was hanging. At this moment, A-Jun was also in tears, hurriedly admitting his mistakes and apologizing. "My lord, I was wrong." Little Black naturally agreed with Jiang Xi's statement. At this moment, a dog suddenly asked, "What about a Jew? He has been hanging there for several months." Jiang Xi waved his hand, indicating that it was unnecessary to pay attention. "And our people, we will definitely escort you safely to your new home." For a moment, the little zombie didn't know what to say. The zombie on the roof simply turned around and left, indicating that sometimes the continuation of a race doesn't necessarily have to rely on war. All the soldiers immediately stood in a neat row. The sight scared the little zombie, who yelled for his mother. "Will they hit me with their flaming sticks?" The soldier sternly responded, "Director Zhang's orders are God's orders. President Zhang's people are me." Even the zombies felt comforted watching it. At this moment, Xiao He said that according to the king's orders, all the citizens have been moved here. The zombie nodded in acknowledgement, then shouted, "Attention!" And after Ginger became the president, in order to defend the city, she expanded her army from 1 legion to 10. And a historic moment occurred. The iconic scene of human troops protecting zombies as they moved. But this led someone to directly curse the abnormal humans academy. Where did they find such an idiot? Why not keep a perfectly good city? Insisting on keeping a useless empty city. Even Ziling could only sigh helplessly. If the population doesn't reach 10 million by the deadline, your position as president will be revoked. No matter what they say, Jiang Xi has already decided on that city. In the end, the higher-ups had no choice but to agree to Jiang Xi's request. That's an empty, abandoned city. Even if you want to raise chickens, you need eggs first. But there's nothing there at all. How are you going to develop it? Then which city do you want? Jiang Xi scratched his head with a silly grin and said, "I think City H is just fine. Just go with that." When the higher-ups heard it, they exploded immediately. Meanwhile, Jiang Xi was being questioned by the human authorities. "Mr. Jiang Xi, what does becoming the president mean to you?" If nothing, Jiang Xi finally completed his mission. Not only did he successfully capture the human traitor Dr. Jemin, he also became the president of the Human Academy and gained a city of his own. At the same time, all the citizens were relocated to the new city. They weren't even worth remembering. Meanwhile, Dr. Jemin was unusually excited, muttering to himself, "I must get your genes and then create a species even stronger than you." It seems Jiang Xi has returned to his silly self. Then, with a curious expression, he asked Jiang Xi what just happened. At this moment, Jiang Xi innocently stated that he didn't have much sense of time. Moreover, he had dealt with many strange guys like this before. In short, they were just too weak, which gave Xiao Xiao a fright. Then Jiang Xi, with a serious expression, said he was hungry. "And I want a piece of clothing that won't tear." Seeing him like this, Xiao Xiao finally relaxed. "Just agree to promote him to the dormitory when we get back." Seeing this, Xiao Xiao nervously approached the zombie. "Are you okay? We should leave now." At that moment, the zombie suddenly got up, but turning into that was really terrifying. Xiling and the others nearby were stunned. Then Xiling directly ordered Xiao Xiao to ask. But Xiao Xiao was also panicking inside, and in order to make Xiao Xiao ask. In the end, Dr. Jemin, who should have been executed on the spot, was captured alive by the zombie. However, at this moment, the zombie was squatting alone in the distance, drawing circles, like a child who did something wrong, mumbling, "I'm just a kind zombie." They hurriedly stepped forward to surrender. Although Dr. Jemin was unwilling, he had no choice. After all, in the face of the absolute pressure of the zombie. Even a god must bow down. Mushroom Head was so scared, he wet himself. At this moment, Ginger suddenly spoke. Are you going to surrender on your own, or do you want to lie down with that lion ace? I'll give you 2 seconds to decide. Those who had witnessed the strength of the zombie were already terrified. Mushroom Head and the others were instantly terrified. Jump, Minnie. How did you know we were here? We never showed our faces. Seeing Ginger's deathly stare, standing there in shock, Mushroom Head, who reacted first, quickly grabbed Gemin, ready to run. But it was already too late. At this moment, Ginger had already appeared in front of them, staring at them intently. Is the legendary Lion King finished just like that? On the other hand, Xiao Hei appeared unfazed by it all. It seems he was scared into unconsciousness by the King's supreme form. They were scared to death. On the other side, Dr. Gemin was also terrified. At this point, the little zombie has successfully met its end. Meanwhile, the others, including Xiao Xiao, were in shock, watching what happened here. Is this really the end? The big president also looked stunned. But it also captured Dr. Gemin alive. However, Dr. Gemin was not panicked at all. Instead, he became excited. At this moment, the zombie found the little zombie in its hand so unscary that it was boring. It threw him off the building. Immediately after, it rolled its eyes, fainting completely. At this point, the little zombie finally went offline. The zombie displayed an unprecedented terrifying power. Not only did it scare the little Lion King to death, all the alien warships were completely destroyed. And that figure was the zombie in its 4th form. At this moment, the invisible fear and pressure pulled the little zombie back to reality. Accompanied by the last deterrent gaze, the little zombie completely lost the will to resist. But at that moment, a figure suddenly appeared somewhere on Blue Star. The moment he appeared, countless water columns shot into the sky in a tight moment and continuously sent out warships to invade it. And their leader is still a robot encased in full armor. So far, they've launched 1,351 assaults on Blue Star. With just one command from the leader, countless missiles and aliens instantly charged toward Blue Star. At that moment, the originally playful expression on the zombie's face turned serious, accompanied by a scream. A vision from an ancient era surged into the little zombie's mind. Long before the Blue Star civilization had matured, alien civilizations had already begun to covet the Blue Star. You are right, but do you have some misunderstanding about death? Do you want to destroy a person? But it's not just about physical annihilation. Upon hearing these words, a chill immediately arose in the little zombie's heart. The zombie coldly said with an expressionless face, "Then let's try again." After saying this, he suddenly exerted force with his large hand, turning around. The little zombie was immediately pulled toward the zombie by an invisible force. In the next second, he was grabbed by the throat. Ah, yes, yes, yes. But what about you? Don't forget, the Lion King is immortal. Even if you cut me into countless pieces, I can still regenerate and be reborn. Facing the taunts of the little zombie, but it is still the strongest lion cultivated by humanity. In just a few seconds, his body started to regenerate. So what's the point of mocking a zombie? I can't do anything to you. Since the beginning of human civilization, there has never been such power. Although he is hailed as the greatest biologist of humanity, the strongest lion he created is nothing more than a toy in front of the zombie. At this moment, the little zombie has already been torn to pieces. Under the zombie's seemingly goofy appearance, such terrifying power was hidden. Even Xiling was shocked. Is this kind of terrifying power something a zombie should have? At this moment, the whale that had just been sucked into the air fell down. On the other side, Dr. Gemin was also stunned and speechless. The little zombie witnessing this scene was scared to death. Just after the zombie evolved into its 3rd form, even heaven and earth changed color. The little zombie was immediately torn apart. Xiao Xiao was stunned seeing this scene. The zombie, now dismembered, was still fiercely asking Jiang Si, "Who are you really?" Jiang Si just coldly looked at him and said, "I'm your father." The zombie transformed into its 4th form to fight aliens. But with just one encounter, the alien warships were completely destroyed, and even the distant warships and the deep-sea behemoths in the Pacific were sucked into the air. The little one looked terrified. The space was flowing backward. Is this something a zombie should be doing? Moments later, the world finally returned to peace. In an instant, everything around came to a standstill. In the next second, the zombie henchman waved. Before the little zombie could react, it was torn apart. At that moment, the rain that had been still began to flow backward. At the same time, Xiling and the others were pulled into the air. In the end, the zombie king will be me. With that, he swung his fist and flashed from the Pacific right to the zombie's face. However, just as he was about to touch the zombie moved. Then the zombie took a step forward. And why does he look more and more human? The little zombie was also shocked by this scene. Meanwhile, the sky also began to pour rain, and the little zombie in the distance went mad with rage. Doesn't matter if you're a zombie or a human, this is our network. The big boss was immediately stunned, his mouth agape. At that moment, Jiang Si suddenly stepped forward. What came into view was the perfect muscle definition in his third form. Damn, he's changing again. What the hell is this? It crashes even harder than I do. Meanwhile, on the other side, the trio of little Hay, who were just watching the show, saw the zombie's aura and passed out. At this moment, kind-hearted Go slapped him awake. Take a look for yourself. Xiao Xiao and the others were so shocked they exclaimed, what the hell? What the heck is this turning into? At this moment, the zombie is standing still on the rooftop. There's a look in its eyes that conveys utter disdain. Just one glance made the little zombie far away in the Pacific shiver in fear. His skin began to slowly peel away. Even every muscle in his body was reinforced. Then the zombie let out a furious roar to the sky, causing those watching nearby to turn pale. At that moment, the zombie completed its third transformation. But there was nothing they could do. This is the zombie gathering strength again. It seems I need to educate you properly, you newborn. You don't know who the boss really is. As soon as he finished speaking, each person gets half. You can actually say such things. Only a weakling would think about destroying the world every day. Ruling the world. The little zombie was instantly left speechless by the zombie's retort. Even the heavens would bow to him. And this powerful zombie. Someone still wants to collaborate with him to destroy the world. The zombie instantly got upset. Who do you think you are? You think you're worthy of working with me? Regarding my lack of interest in your plan to destroy the world. And as for the cooperation you mentioned, I can only say you're not even worthy, you little trash. Just how strong is a zombie in its third form? With just a light stomp. Who told you my king can only transform once? As soon as those words were spoken, the president was shocked for a whole year. Meanwhile, the zombie's expression darkened. And then look for opportunities to find his weaknesses. When the time comes, we can strike together and take him down in one blow. As soon as I finished speaking, Xiao Hei directly snapped, shut up. Trash humans. This is just too outrageous. I said to Xiao Hei, I'm serious. How about we just run? You see, the zombies can't do anything to him. We should save our strength for now. Then we can each take half. We won't interfere with each other. This scared the little ones so much that they couldn't close their mouth. They were afraid that if the zombie agreed, it would directly annihilate humanity. The big boss, watching the drama from a distance, also looked terrified. The defenseless zombie was grabbed by him with one hand. With a loud bang, he slammed it directly into the building behind him. At this moment, the little zombie didn't forget to say, since we are all the same kind, who can do anything to whom? Why not cooperate together to destroy the world? It's over. As soon as the words were spoken, the little zombie powered up again. His body turned eerily pitch black. The next second, his arms suddenly stretched straight toward the zombie. The two stared at each other across the sea, neither willing to back down. Gods at war. Yet innocent bystanders got caught in the crossfire. Why'd they stop fighting? If that's all the strength you have, I suggest you stick to being a kid. This shocked the little zombie. What has this kid been eating? And he's still fine. A massive mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Down below, the group with Xiao Xiao could only huddle together to resist the blast. At this moment, the two zombie kings simultaneously landed back on their respective decks. The zombie sneered at the little zombie, come on. Trash, why aren't you continuing? Immediately after, the nuclear fusion rapidly spread like a small sun. The little ones below were also stunned, wide-eyed. In the blink of an eye, the shockwave from the explosion spread directly towards the mainland. In the next second, there was a loud boom. The little zombie dove straight into the battleship's nuclear reactor. All we heard was a loud bang. The little zombie actually tore out the nuclear reactor. Then, with a loud shout, it said, let's try this first. A few seconds later, flickering sparks began to appear around the battleship. Then with a bang, it shot straight into the sky. Aren't you being a bit arrogant? Then come on. I continued to watch the approaching zombies. Immediately after, a projectile shot back to Earth. Looking at the diving little zombie, the zombie merely snorted in disdain. Suddenly, the legs exerted a powerful force. The sudden pressure lifted the waves. The little zombie on the moon has a fierce look on its face. It then exerted a sudden force. It directly lifted the battleship up. With a loud roar, it continued. After saying that, it smashed the battleship down towards Earth. The little zombie and the enormous battleship were embedded in the moon. Xiao Xiao and the others looked completely dazed. It's over, there's no need to run now. Anyway, it's not safe anywhere. Meanwhile, at this moment, the little zombie was in shock, completely not expecting the zombie to be this powerful. Before he could react, another shadow followed closely behind. They heard a loud bang. The zombie was already above him. Only then did the little zombie realize that the opponent's speed had increased. The next second, the zombie punched him directly in the face. In an instant, his entire body shot toward the sky like a cannonball. This blow also shifted the battlefield into space. Meanwhile, the zombie on the deck suddenly flickered, vanishing from sight. This even shocked the little zombie. But before he could react, faced with his urging, Xiao Hei smirked and told him to shut up. No human has ever been a match for the king. Not even a god could do it. These words left President Gang stunned for an entire year. However, the club president hurriedly urged them to leave quickly. Although the zombie is strong, Dr. Jamin is the only research genius in human history. Any one of his studies could make an ordinary person a local tyrant. If you don't leave now, it will be too late. They all screamed and fled in panic. At that moment, the zombie looked into the distance and said, "Do you really like smashing things so much?" Meanwhile, the little zombie in midair dismissively replied, "Don't bother me. If you have the ability, you can smash it too." At this moment, the few little guys on the ground were staring up above. The zombie that was hit crashed onto the surface of the sea with a loud thud. After rolling a few times, it finally settled smoothly onto the deck of the battleship. The soldiers on the battleship were startled by the sudden object flying towards them. However, once they saw the zombie's face clearly, with a loud bang, it landed directly on the other end of the submarine. The zombie became interested in his actions immediately. The little zombie angrily said, "I just want to find a more open space to shoot. I don't need to run away." As he spoke, he directly picked up the submarine and threw it at the zombie. It has completely overturned his perception of zombies. However, this kick also thoroughly angered the little zombie. "I can just grab the other end of the rope and pull. If you curse at me, I can do that too." The zombie sneered disdainfully, "What can you do?" At this moment, the little zombie also broke free from the dog leash and dove toward the ground. The little zombie, tied by the neck, has no strength to resist at all. It can only be kicked in the face by the zombie. This kick deformed its face. The force of inertia sent it flying into the atmosphere. This scene completely shocked President Gang. He then threw the rope in his hand toward the little zombie. The next second, the rope was around the little zombie's neck. Immediately, the little zombie was pulled back. At this moment, the zombie coldly laughed and said, "Weren't you acting tough? Why run away?" After striking a cool pose in midair, he even greeted the little zombie in a friendly manner. But the little zombie looked at him with disdain. However, the next second, the little zombie suddenly dashed away. Seeing this, the zombie didn't let him go. Immediately, the two looked into the distance at the same time. Their eyes revealed a look of surprise. "It's the aura of the king." At the same time, a zombie suddenly burst out of the submarine. Meanwhile, on the other side, a dog and Little Black are welding President Steele's body. However, President Steele keeps complaining about these two big fools. They took apart all the parts they shouldn't have. Weld everything that needs to be taken apart. At that moment, Ego patted Xiao Hei on the shoulder, telling him to stop welding. They're all moved out. "And even if you want to fight, I think it would be better to change positions." But at this point, the zombie has completely lost it. "Come on, let's keep playing." Immediately afterward, a submarine flew out from the deep sea. Moments later, with a bang, it directly threw the submarine into the city from earlier. This scene left Xiao Xiao and Xiling completely stunned. How could even this thing? Mushroom Head and Dr. Gemin were both in shock. This person is actually a zombie, and it's also an inexplicable guy. At this moment, the zombie revealed a strange smile. The next second, it directly plunged into the sea. At this moment, the soldiers on the battleship saw the unknown object flying at high speed and all began to flee in panic. In the next second, the rapidly flying zombie directly crashed onto the deck of the battleship. Unexpectedly, it remained unscathed, and it had a look of wanting more. Meanwhile, on a certain rooftop, it almost vomited up its last meal. Even the pile of zombies beneath it was sent flying into the air by the punch's shockwave. The flying zombie did not stop there, but crossed half the continent. It flew to the Pacific Ocean. But at this moment, Xiling directly shot back at President Gangdao, "Are you asking our academy to do something?" The zombie was instantly shocked. But before it could react, it was punched in the stomach by the zombie. With one punch, it was sent flying backwards. Once these words were spoken, President Gangdao instantly exploded. "You abnormal humans are really insane. How could you let a zombie be the vice president?" This operation left Xiao Xiao completely dumbfounded. How could this zombie transform in public? For the first time since its birth, the zombie felt an overwhelming sense of pressure. At this point, the zombie mockingly continued, "What's the matter? Are you mute?" But the zombie quickly reacted. It turned out to be one of its kind. Then asked the zombie, "You are the king of corpses. Then who am I?" This act has left even the president of the Steel Knife Society speechless. At this moment, the zombie continued, "Why aren't you speaking? Look at the zombie standing on top of the pile of zombies. The one who survives will become the new zombie king." It turns out just now, a group of little zombies actually attacked their king. This made the zombie so angry that smoke came out of its mouth. In just one move, it had all the little zombies under its feet. "Who are you and what have you done to them?" Seeing this, the zombie's mouth began to curl into a slight grin. Then he stepped directly on the little zombie and said, "You're called the Zombie King. Then what should I be called?" Two zombies are about to have a life-or-death showdown. One by one, they surrounded the zombie, exchanging glances. Even though their minds were controlled by Dr. Jamin, they instantly woke up in the presence of the zombie. At this moment, their inner fear had reached its peak. The zombie in the distance was completely stunned by this scene. His expression suddenly darkened. He directly threw the girl to the ground. Then he shouted at the horde, "Get the hell out of here." As soon as the zombies heard this, they immediately came to an urgent stop. Lon Chi also urged the zombies to leave quickly. "We can't be completely wiped out here." At the same time, Dr. Jeming laughed excitedly, looking up at the sky. "This is the charm of the Corpse King." The zombie looked at the horde of zombies charging towards him. Panicking, she was at a complete loss. Meanwhile, the zombie arrogantly pointed forward, "Go eat them." In an instant, countless little zombies charged at them madly. The club president screamed in fear, "We're doomed. Why are there so many zombies all of a sudden?" The zombie, seeing this, sarcastically said, "I'll spare your life. And you're still being stubborn." At this moment, Xialing, cradled in the zombie's arms, weakly said, "Hurry and leave this place." He is the new Lion King developed by Dr. Jamin. Xiao Xiao listened with a look of horror. What exactly happened? At this moment, Club President Bangshui also asked President Gangdao, "Are you still alive?" But President Gangdao, severely injured by now, still said, "I can still fight." And Lan Qi and Zi Ling were directly blasted into the sky. After flying several times in the sky, he just happened to fall in front of a zombie. Let everyone experience the zombies on the spot, hug them from left to right. But he was immediately shocked by President Xiling, the president of Little Blue Flag behind him. Lan Qi and Xiling also launched sneak attacks from the front and back of the zombie simultaneously. However, the zombie smiled mysteriously. "A sneak attack is not the right move." Then it was just a flick. President Gangdao's armor instantly disintegrated. The aftermath of the hit shattered the glass of skyscrapers 5 kilometers away. The two presidents behind were stunned by this scene. At this moment, Dr. Jeming had a sinister smile. "This is the true king of the dead." The evolved zombie looked at everyone with disdain. "It seems we don't need to fight anymore." President Gangdao, seeing this, angrily swung a knife at the zombie. The Steel Blade boss was dumbfounded when he heard that. Can this thing really destroy the world? But in the next second, the zombie's body suddenly began to shrink rapidly. Immediately afterward, it evolved into its third form. At this moment, the zombie looks at the scene before him. A familiar sensation suddenly surged in my heart. Meanwhile, the bull-headed zombie was still talking tough. "It seems that unless I show the power to destroy the world, he won't back down." It turns out just moments ago, after defeating the Steel Blade leader, the bull-headed zombie dared to mock them. Talk about not learning your lesson. And this scene was witnessed by the arriving zombies and others. The Steel Knife president still refuses to admit defeat. Seeing this, the zombie scoffed and laughed loudly. "It seems you won't shed tears until you see the coffin." This zombie had just been born for less than 2 days. "You dare call yourself the Zombie King in front of zombies? And you even plan to summon hordes of corpses to attack the zombies?" The arriving zombie looked confused at the explosion. As the dust settled, the mechanized Steel Knife president was actually missing half of his body. At this moment, the zombie slowly spoke. "Human, you have lost. But even so, the outcome will be decided in one move." With that, both sides threw their punches simultaneously. At the moment their fists collided, a powerful shockwave instantly spread outward. The two closest people were directly blasted away by this energy. This scene completely shattered the worldview of the two girls. What the hell is this thing? At the same time, the president of the Steel Blade Society and the zombie were approaching each other steadily. In an instant, the atmosphere reached its peak. What the hell is this? Just then, the female zombie suddenly slapped down. It sent both of them flying. Immediately after, a beefy bull-headed zombie appeared in front of everyone. He strangely looked up and stuck out his long tongue. In the next moment, his slender hand suddenly transformed into a powerful arm, and spikes grew out from his back. This scene directly scared the two of them. How amusing. As soon as President Gao heard this, his eyes instantly filled with murderous intent. "Don't you dare look down on me." With that, he immediately joined forces with the blue flag for a pincer attack. But faced with the two-pronged assault, activating backup shock. Immediately, countless steel armor pieces slowly enveloped his body. In the next second, he also began to mechanize. "This is steel." Seeing this, the alien Steel Heart and the zombie smirked disdainfully. At the same time, President Dao finally stood up again. Watching the intense battle ahead, he gritted his teeth and said, "Hold on a little longer. Give me 2 minutes." With that, he slowly reached for the back of his neck. Unfortunately, it wasn't strong enough. At this moment, President Dao quickly retreated. In the next second, the blue flag flashed past. A sword formation made of countless sword shadows enveloped the female zombie. However, the countless sword shadows couldn't harm her at all. The sheer force of his presence nearly made the knife leader gasp for air. Seeing this, he quickly changed his attack direction. With a right kick, he aimed straight at the female zombie's face. However, the female zombie looked quite disdainful. Not bad speed. With just one punch, it blasted half the body of the mecha-enhanced Steel Blade leader. And at this moment, facing the combined assault of Blue Flag and the Steel Blade leader, he stood still, unmoved. Just as the leader of the knife gang approached, he suddenly raised his left foot high. Now it seems like the sound is getting closer. The zombie slowly stood up and said, "Let's go take a look." 1 second, it was a slender female zombie. The next second, it turned into a muscular bull-headed zombie. Its strength was ridiculously overwhelming. "Hurry up and get me the finest snake neck tea from the south." However, just at that moment, a rumbling sound suddenly came from the distance. Xiao Xiao looked confused, wondering what the sound was. There was a sound underground just now. After all, in the past, he would regularly bring back a truckload of eggs. After Ajun's battle just now, the president is now a devoted little fan of Jiangxi. Jiangxi merely said, "This tea is a bit bitter." The president instantly yelled, "Which idiot brewed this tea?" Meanwhile, on the other side, the zombies were leisurely enjoying barbecue. But the club president was quite confused. He had seen roasted chicken, duck, and goose. This was the first time he had seen roasted eggs. Ginger could only awkwardly say he liked eggs. Why does this zombie feel so strange? This is a big problem. But now is not the time to be sulking. Let's work together to take this down. While the female zombie was speaking, she had already drawn her weapon. "I can't believe they managed to beat the big boss so badly." At this moment, the female zombie had a look of mocking amusement as she looked at the others. The moment he stood up, Lon Chi and the others instantly felt an inexplicable sense of oppression. What on earth happened to the Steel President? When the dust settled, the Steel Knife President was completely powerless to fight back. The terrified duo looked on in shock. What in the world is that? At the same time, a powerful explosion suddenly erupted in the lab. The female zombie and the Steel Knife President fought their way from the laboratory to the ground. The unsuspecting Lon Chi, the two of them looked terrified. Looking at the barely breathing big boss, Ego asked a soul-piercing question. "He seems like he's about to die. Should we save him?" "What are you crazy? We're zombies." The huge noise of the building collapsing makes several people outside serious. Meanwhile, a fierce explosion suddenly occurs on top of a certain building. In the next second, the big boss is thrown from the building. He just arrived to stop it. It stopped right in front of Little Hay and Ego. In the next moment, he transformed into a model of mechanical armor. However, no matter how cool the armor is, it can't last for more than 3 seconds. The female zombie kicks him right in the head. The big boss is instantly kicked away. The immense force directly kicks him out of the laboratory. This is bad. He hurriedly sought help from outside the arena. "You bunch of bastards. Why aren't you coming to help?" Seeing this, the big president also realized the seriousness of the situation. "Just watch, I'll turn you into a zombie." With that, he unleashed his ultimate move, the double-edged slash, towards the female zombie. But in the next second, his expression instantly froze. The female zombie blocked his attack with just one finger. The president of the Steel Knife Society was stunned. The zombie waited for 1,000 years. Finally, it welcomed its other half. But this female zombie didn't come out to seek the zombie. Instead, she used a tactic to lure the president of the Steel Knife Club. As a solid man, how could the president of the Steel Knife Club easily fall for it? In a moment, a sexy female zombie appeared in front of the two. They were so shocked that their souls nearly left their bodies. At this moment, the zombie looked at them and slowly said, "I wonder who wants to fight first." Hearing this, the little zombie obediently spat out his pacifier. In the next second, his body started growing rapidly. Her hair instantly grew long. The clothes that fit her just right now became tiny and small, but even if he hacked it to pieces, it would eventually restore itself to its original form. The Steel Blade boss was so angry, he got internal injuries. If you're a man, don't run. Fight with real weapons like a man. But it also taunts them. Come on, keep playing. The Steel Blade chief has grown up, and no one has ever dared to be so arrogant in front of him. In an instant, he drew his blade and started slashing wildly at the little zombie. We'll get beaten up when we get back, too. Meanwhile, the two heads of the lab looked terrified. This was the first time they had ever encountered such a zombie. And this little zombie not only can clone itself, and even slapped away the flyers. After finding nothing, the two started sweating nervously. Ah Go was so scared that he started to stutter. If we still can't find Ah Jun, it was none other than zombies' lackeys, Ah Go and Xiao He. To avoid being controlled by the virus, they even wore N95 masks. And they came here just to find Ah Jun, who had run off alone. But these savage zombies ignored Xiao He. Meanwhile, Mushroom Head was so angry his hair stood on end. That bitch cleared all the zombies I just placed. If only there were another chainsaw zombie like earlier. At the same time, on a certain street in the city, two very familiar figures were closely monitoring everything happening. The exquisite knife skills even carved the zombie flesh into a little flower. At this moment, Lan Chi radiated a king's aura. His determined gaze seemed to tell Dr. Jie Ming that if you want to escape from me in the chaos, you don't stand a chance. Then, using the inertia of the large tree, he shot into the sky like a cannonball the next second. This scene stunned his little follower. As a flash of blades swept by, all the zombies were sliced into small pieces and fell freely from the air. As he spoke, he directly pulled out a golden long sword. This was also his first time using a weapon. Before the zombies could approach, he took the initiative to charge forward. These low-level zombies were no match for him at all. In an instant, all the zombies were sent flying by him. The frightened man quickly organized a defense. But just as he was about to move, Blue Flag stopped him. With a disdainful look, Blue Flag said, "Stand down. I'll warm up first. Professional matters should be left to a professional like me." Just after Dr. Jamin released the little zombie, the Mushroom Head also manipulated the computer to release more zombies and create chaos. And they took advantage of the chaos to escape. The next second, countless zombies charged toward the base from all over the city. It was a black mass. Instead, it kept splitting continuously. A little zombie that hasn't even weaned yet has terrifying thoughts of destroying humanity. And when it pulled out the pacifier from its mouth, it unexpectedly turned into a curvaceous female zombie. And it looked just like the zombie's distant cousin. At this moment, although the little zombie had already been sliced in half by the Steel Knife President, he not only didn't die, but instead transformed into two. This move shocked both of them for a whole year. However, the little zombie, which split into two, did not stop. However, the next second, the mechanical president was so shocked that he shouted out loud and quickly gave the order for all soldiers to retreat. The soldiers didn't have time to ask more questions and hurriedly fled the laboratory. Ferocity isn't scary. What's scary is someone who looks like a child, innocent and harmless. But President Steelblade chose to ignore it completely and slashed at the little zombie. But what comes into view is a pacifier-sucking, harmless-looking little zombie. An awkward atmosphere instantly filled the entire lab. Just as President Steelblade was about to teach the little zombie a lesson, he was stopped by President Mechanic. "Let us welcome this great new species, all humans of the Lake Light, including myself." And at this moment, as the smoke slowly dissipates in the lab, everyone's expression turns serious. The soldiers had to hurriedly escape from the explosion site. But the Steelblade Society leader looked disdainful, thinking this was some kind of trap. Meanwhile, on a certain rooftop, Dr. Jamin suddenly yelled at the sky, shouting about human extinction. Just for today. And Dr. Jemin saw the provocation plan fail. The B plan was activated directly. As the button in hand was pressed, the lab was instantly filled with the ticking sound of a bomb countdown. In the next second, the sealed chamber exploded right before everyone's eyes. Such a blatant provocation. Which man could endure it? Immediately ordered to blow it up. But the meticulous president of the machinery company stopped the soldiers. They were here to capture him. Don't complicate things. In the next second, a sealed chamber appears in front of President Gang Dao. There is also a note inside with a message about the deceased. As President Dao, looking puzzled, takes down the note to read carefully, it mentions the Zombie King. Extremely dangerous. If you're a man, open it. Let alone humans. What they don't know is that on a rooftop somewhere at this moment, a group of people led by Dr. Jemin is watching their every move. And they have activated the plan. President Gang Dao directly broke open a large hole, and the soldiers that followed quickly surrounded the entire research base. However, after searching the entire base, there was no sign of Dr. Jimming and his team. But this city had already been completely sealed off by land, sea, and air. Not even a mosquito could escape. After saying this, he jumped off the plane again with style. This is definitely the second Zombie King outside of the zombie horde. Beneath its adorable appearance lies an infinite terrifying power of division. Even the mechanical president urgently issued an order for everyone to retreat. Just now, what if there's a trap? Just then, the president of the mechanics also stepped forward. In the face of absolute power, all schemes and tricks are in vain. The hard concrete ground was directly smashed into a big pit by the steel blade president. He also remembered to strike a cool sheathing move. It was no faster than taking the ladder. Meanwhile, on the plane, Lan Chi had a speechless expression, thinking this idiot. Don't you men ever think before you act? And the steel knife in his hand kept spinning. In the next moment, a towering tornado surged straight toward the ground. The instant it landed, it exploded with a loud bang. The force of the explosion was no less powerful than that of a nuclear bomb. As the dust settled, he directly pulled out that 40-meter-long knife. In the face of absolute power, violence can solve all problems. After saying that, he jumped directly from the plane. His speed created a sonic boom in the air, covering an area of over 10,000 square meters. Lan Chi was dumbfounded upon hearing it. Over 10,000 square meters. Isn't finding the entrance like searching for a needle in a haystack? But the president of Steel Knife doesn't have that patience. Lan Chi fiercely interrogates the spy. Is your Doflamingo here? Caught the zombie virus. Huh. The spy, with no resistance, spilled everything. There are 6 levels in total. Dr. Jemming said to abandon this route. They're coming. Meanwhile, an armed helicopter suddenly appeared over the city, and on board were the leaders of various organizations. It was the first time he had seen one. As A-Jun's figure, running further and further away, Mushroom Head still tried to make a final move to cover A-Jun. Just then, a hand suddenly blocked him. After saying that, he disappeared from everyone's sight in a flash, leaving a few people bewildered. With a look of confusion, the mushroom-haired guy hiding in the shadows was even more astonished. A zombie that could break free from his control. Now, as he watched the furious zombie approach him, Ah-Jun broke down and started crying. What are you barking about? If you want to fight, fight yourself. Don't engage him. But what he didn't know was, once immortal, Ah-Jun was torn to pieces by zombies and turned into sushi, then hung on a tree to dry like jerky for hundreds of years. A-Jun was so scared he didn't even dare to move. Meanwhile, the clueless mushroom head was still frantically trying to operate, trying to control A-Jun's attack. Don't be a coward, you brat. You're an invincible being who can't die. In front of his subordinates, he was lifted into the air. Come on, tell me why. And A-Jun, who was being choked. I can only stammer an apology. Thinking about this, when he was still the boss, Jiang Si came to find him and asked him to be Jiang Si's subordinate. He just said, why should I? Then Jiang Si grabbed him by the neck, was just recalling these events, and ended up so scared that he wet his pants. Yellow liquid continuously flowed between his legs. How terrifying Jiang Si was. He was 1,000 times more aware than anyone else, neither human nor corpse. Why should I be your lackey? In the end, Jiang Si not only smoothly took the throne, but also gave A-Jun a beating. At this moment, A-Jun suddenly remembered. When he was still the zombie king, Jiang Si suddenly barged into his territory, and tried to make him her lackey. Back then, he was full of disdain, a weakling. At that moment, A-Jun was so scared that his whole body was trembling uncontrollably. Just then, Jiang Si slowly said, A-Jun, do you remember who I am? Aren't I the one who told you to guard the house? Explain why you are here. Just then, a figure of a zombie suddenly appeared on his screen. The ignorant mushroom head even wanted to control Ajun to confront the zombie. But no matter how he tried to operate it, Ajun remained standing still, not making a move. Meanwhile, the mushroom head got excited. This zombie not only has hidden skills, but also knows how to ambush. This is definitely the coolest zombie he has seen so far. As long as he takes them all out, it will be over. Moreover, once she let her guard down, she would lose control. After successfully launching his sneak attack, Ajuan became arrogant again. It turns out he was on drugs. But since you want results, don't believe what zombies say in your next life. Ajuan launched a sneak attack on Xiao Xiao without any sense of honor. With a single punch, he sent Xiao Xiao flying hundreds of meters away. Fortunately, the club president acted as a cushion. And Jiang Si was also enraged by Xiao Xiao's stupidity. She actually believed in ghosts. Seeing this scene, Mushroom Head also trembled slightly. If this guy surrenders now, then Dr. Jimming's plan will fail. But what no one expected was that just when Xiao Xiao completely let down her guard, even Ajuan's head was smashed into the concrete ground. However, just as Xiao Xiao was about to deliver the fatal blow, Ajuan trembled as he raised his hand in surrender. He indicated that as long as you stop first, he would go home immediately. Ajuan couldn't defend himself at all. In the end, Xiao Xiao smashed him in the forehead with a Gatling hammer. Ajuan, who was in mid-air, fell to the ground like a cannonball. At this moment, Xiao Xiao approached Ajuan again. Before Ajuan could speak, she hammered him once more. For beating you up. Then he pushed his small combat power to the peak. In the next second, he flashed right in front of Ajuan. Ajuan, who didn't have time to react, took a slap right in the face. Under Xiao Xiao's fierce attack, although it can reorganize its genes, but the pain of being cut in half was all too real. At this moment, Jiang Si's expression turned grim. Ajuan, since you won't stay put at home, don't blame me. I even started to doubt who the real zombie was. At this moment, the zombie's expression was serious. Although the small genetic mutation greatly enhanced its combat power, its bones are completely shattered, and all its muscles are torn apart. Ajuan is completely stunned by this sight. Then, a mocking voice echoes, "Immortal, oh, I'm so scared." What a coincidence. I was also left speechless by Ajun. At this moment, Ajuan is extremely arrogant. I'm immortal. What do you have to fight me with? But Jiang Si, upon seeing this, remains silent. Instead, he clenches his fist. In the next second, a small wound begins to heal rapidly. At this moment, the battle between both sides reaches a fever pitch. The next second, Xiao Xiao pulls the trigger first. However, the flying shell is sliced in half by Ajuan with a single strike. As Ajuan lands with a cool pose, even Xiao Xiao is cut in half at the waist by him. What a maniac. And at this moment, Xiao Xiao decided to finish him off while he's down. He directly pulls out the cannon of worldly truth. The zombies upstairs are all stunned. Sensing the danger, Ajuan drinks the 95-octane gasoline next to him in one gulp. Over 100 meters away, after rolling on the ground for dozens of spins, he finally stopped with a faceplant. The club president was completely dumbfounded. How is this girl so strong? Earlier she was pretending to be weak. At this moment, the club president was so scared by Xiao Zhao's aura that they huddled together, trembling. June couldn't stand it anymore. With just this bit of strength, you want to defeat me? Saying this, he grabbed a chainsaw and charged at Xiao Xiao. But Xiao Xiao easily dodged it. Then Xiao Xiao kicked Ajun flying with one blow. It could still be stronger. As the genes kept getting stronger, Xiao Xiao let out an excited roar to the sky on the battlefield. That's right, this is the feeling. I like it. Deputy Editor Jiang, what did you just do? Facing the soldier's question, Jiang Si did not respond, but instead continued forming hand seals, saying softly. He even provocatively asked Xiao Xiao if this was just a tickle. Seeing this, Xiao Xiao punched him in the face again. At this moment, Xiao Xiao still looked unsatisfied with the battle on his face. Meanwhile, the soldier on the rooftop looked puzzled. Then I took out 2 small sunflower seeds. I opened the clasp and stuffed them directly into Ajun's mouth. Immediately, there was a violent explosion where Ajun was located. Just when Xiao Xiao thought the fight was over, Ajun walked out of the explosion unscathed. Facing the rain of bullets coming at him, Ajun began to perform the 8th set of radio calisthenics. Meanwhile, the stick president behind him could only curl up and tremble. Before the others could react, Xiao Xiao did a somersault and landed above Ajun. Xiao Xiao also spoke fiercely, I've been through many battles. What do you count as? He pulled out a Gatling gun directly from his pants. He started firing at Ajun. Auntie, I'm going to treat you to the gun barrel now. At this moment, Xiao Xiao's eyes were bloodshot. Her whole body was filled with fighting spirit. But Ajun looked dismissive. Brother's chainsaw is really powerful. How long can you hold out? But Ajun, who had already lost his mind, was consumed by endless slaughter. At that moment, a voice suddenly came from behind, the one with the chainsaw. Come play with me for a while. Ajun turned around angrily to look. I saw Xiao Xiao slowly walking towards Ajun, dragging a Gatling gun. He shouted, "You're not going to treat me like a spy, right?" The zombie was left speechless after hearing this. He just asked him to go easy. Meanwhile, the club president could no longer endure it. He begged Ajun frantically to spare him. But before he could react, Jiang Si suddenly bit down on his arm. Xiao Xiao looked at the bite mark in shock. Oh no, am I going to turn into a zombie too? But in the next second, clutching his chest in anger. At this moment, a soldier next to Jiang Si asked, Vice President Jiang, what should we do next? Jiang Si thought that if he intervened, he would likely expose himself. Then he turned to Xiao Xiao and said, go beat him up. Upon hearing that, Xiao Xiao instantly got furious. You're clearly sending me to my death. The escaping Jiang Si and others were observing the battlefield with an 8x scope. At this moment, Xiao Xiao looked flustered, realizing it was over. President Bang, hold on. Meanwhile, the once arrogant President Bang was now being beaten by Ajun, crying out for his mother to save him. The two on the rooftop could only look on speechless. With a single slap, Ajun sent him spinning in place. Then he kicked him hundreds of meters away. At that moment, Ajun flashed in front of them again. Without saying a word, he raised the chainsaw and struck down. Boss Bang's stainless steel arm was immediately sawed off, sparking. Then they began to fight. Hiding in the shadows, Mushroom Head was also excited. He had never seen such a powerful zombie. After a fierce battle, Boss Bang was completely no match for Ajun. President Hammer was sent flying hundreds of meters by a punch from Ajun. President Hammer immediately foamed at the mouth and passed out. Even the stainless steel on his body was completely ruined. At this moment, Ajun flashed and appeared in front of President Stick and said, how do you want to die? Meanwhile, the clueless president thought Jiang Si was Pao. He even stepped forward, wanting to challenge Ajun. But the next second, a figure whizzed past the president. Before he could even react, behind them, Xiao Xiao looked confused with the club president around. Why do we need to run? Jiang Si said, don't be stupid. This guy is a real immortal. Hearing this, Xiao Xiao nearly wet herself in fear. Meanwhile, the irrational Ajun directly ignored Jiang Si. He just shouted about beating up all the humans. Hearing this, the club president suddenly became interested. Finally, someone interesting has arrived. However, at this moment, Jiang Si was dragging Xiao Xiao and running away in a frenzy. And all the street's windows were shattered. The 200-pound Xiao Xiao was directly blown away by the force. Luckily, a zombie appeared just in time, withstood most of the attacks. At this moment, Xiao Xiao, looking terrified, asked, what the hell is this? Shockwaves blasted through the entire city. The surrounding buildings were all shattered by the energy wave. At this moment, Ajuan's power level skyrocketed to 10,000. Even the Iron Academy's musclehead president couldn't withstand a single move from him. Just a single roar. As he spoke, he pressed the red button in his hand again. Immediately, a bottle of mysterious green potion spread out in front of Ajun. After absorbing the potion, Ajun gulped down the gasoline. Then, he pulled the chainsaw in his hand. Afterward, he let out a furious roar. After handing the gasoline to Ajun, he ran back to the base in a panic. Seeing this, Ajun directly scolded that group of cowards. I can take down humanity all by myself. Meanwhile, the mushroom-headed figure hiding in a base is unusually excited. It's his first time seeing someone with maxed out stats. He planned to take the opportunity to teach humans a lesson while Jiang Si was away. But unexpectedly, he was spotted by a zombie as soon as he came out. At that moment, a little zombie found Ajun, and shoved a bucket of gasoline into Ajun's hands. Because he didn't dare to disobey the orders of the zombie king. Just as the tension between both sides escalated, a loud roar from the distance instantly drew their attention. Following the sound, they looked over. And it was Ajun, Jiang Si's henchman. It turns out that Ajun has always been dissatisfied with humanity. At this moment, one zombie picks up another zombie and mutters quietly. The man who had just finished cleaning up the zombies came face to face with the remaining ones. He arrogantly said, leave this to us. Weaklings like you should go back and handle the kids' stuff. Dr. Jimming is discussing recent experimental results with his assistant. The next second, he presses the red button next to him. Immediately, a group of zombies rushes out of the iron cage. However, as soon as the zombies arrive in the city, they are completely wiped out by the Stainless Steel Academy. Even in death, they are mocked and humiliated by the stainless steel people. Why did you only send a lowly vice president? At this moment, the chief president turned and said, because he can beat the crap out of you. The man sneered, I'm way stronger than you, President Chin. Meanwhile, in a secret base, they actually sent a rookie to guard such an important post. At this point, Lon Chi couldn't stay silent anymore. You're here to help, not to make sarcastic comments, not to sit here and mock. The man then said, this is the most crucial point in capturing Dr. Jeming. Xiao Xiao suddenly startled, then realized. So it turns out to be the vice president and president of the Steel Knife Society from the Stainless Steel Institute. And their big president from the Stainless Steel Institute is also aboard the battleship. Is there no one left at your Abnormal Humans Institute? He saw someone sitting on the barrel of a tank. It was Vice President Jiang. I thought you were some big shot. I really don't understand why they sent you, a little nobody, to guard such an important position. And we have to cooperate with you to capture Dr. Jiming. It engulfed the soldier. Jiang Si didn't expect these people to be so obedient. He could only awkwardly wipe the sweat from his face. Just then, a mocking voice suddenly rang out from above, and said it would be an honor to die for Vice President Jiang. Jiang Si was startled to hear this. He quickly clarified that he was just joking, but it was already too late. The grenade exploded on the spot in an instant. Jiang immediately became interested. Then I tell you to die. Would you actually do it? I didn't expect that. As soon as the words were out, this soldier pulled the pin on the grenade. This is the place where the traitor Dr. Jamin is most likely to escape. At this moment, he just arrived here. And everyone bowed in unison to show their respect. They declared that they would only obey Vice President Zhang's orders from now on. Upon hearing this, he alone can command a 200,000 strong human army. When he tells humans to die, humans obediently go to their deaths. Ever since the zombie became the vice president of the Human Academy, the president assigned him to guard the most important checkpoint. So these people all belong to the Central 4th Army, 56th Corps. From today on, they will only follow the vice president's orders. And the entire corps actually has a full 120,000 soldiers. He's a zombie, but he became a human commander. It's relatively well preserved from the night. Just then, a squad of soldiers suddenly lined up neatly in front of Jiang Si. Before Jiang Si could react, the soldiers all bowed in salute to Jiang Si. Thanks to Jiang Si's help earlier, they successfully located the hiding place of the blogger Jiaming. This mission is to capture Dr. Jemin at all costs. At this moment, Jiang Si is being led by Xiao Xiao to an occupied city district. Although the city is occupied, and planned to save the king from the humans. At that moment, Xiao He stopped everyone, because he knew that only the king could trap himself. 2 days later, a warship suddenly appeared in a certain sea area. And in the control room were the big president and his disciples. After learning that everything was in place, the big boss's gaze became fierce. At this time, within the zombie king's domain, they learned that the king had been captured. His civilian wild king called the police. But for a man, whether the zombies are human is not important, because to capture Dr. Jamin, we still need the strength of the zombies. Then the big boss asked Lon Chi how the arrangements were going. As long as you become president, you can do whatever you want. Meanwhile, in the hospital room, Lon Chi was very confused. Why would they make him vice president knowing he's a zombie? Leaving the zombie standing there in confusion. Excuse me, was the stamp from the president? Did he say anything? He said you're human. Anyway, good luck. A document suddenly appeared in front of her. Mr. Jiangxi, starting today, you are the vice president of the academy. The notice queen turned around and left coolly. She froze for a moment. She didn't intend to kill to silence her. But now, there's no other choice. The next second, Ginger suddenly turned and rushed towards Zeline. But at that moment, she may be a kind Ginger, but when she lost control of her emotions, it was terrifying. Since her identity had already been exposed, then it's best to run first. But at that moment, Zeline suddenly called out to Ginger from behind. Right after, Ginger threw him down from 10,000 meters high. After all, for him, death would be a form of relief. Fortunately, the blue flag caught the president just in time below. Realizing her identity was exposed, Ginger hurriedly packed her things and prepared to flee. It turns out the man's parents died when he was very young. And not long after their death, Dr. Jamin took him in for human modification. There's not a single part of his body that's normal. And his zombie-like existence. Living is simply more painful than dying. Then the zombie revealed a strange smile. Robots are indeed hard to control. But as a conscious human being, you should at least have a brain. Suddenly, the zombie makes a forceful move. The zombie virus instantly starts spreading from the man's brain. Then, he suddenly lunged forward. In an instant, he seized the head of the mechanical president. The next second, he charged straight to the top of the Earth stabilizer with the president. At this moment, the zombie coldly said, "Little human, do you now feel our difference?" It looked like there were two Earths. The suddenly raised crust also blocked the mechanical president. With a bang, he crashed straight to the ground. At the same time, Jiang Si coldly observed everything. The zombie gathered all its strength into its hands. In the next second, he flipped the entire region's crust upside down. Everyone watched in disbelief. Even Xiao Xiao in the academy was shocked. From afar, in the next moment, he suddenly raised his fist. Then he slammed his fist down onto the ground. At that moment, Lan Qi, who was still fleeing in mid-air, felt as if he was flying close to the ground. When he looked back, he was instantly shocked by the zombie's actions. "What the heck do you mean? Seriously, it was clearly you who provoked him first." Seeing this, the three of them, thinking that one might survive, ran off in different directions. However, Jiang Si stood in place as if contemplating something. It just casually waved its hand. Several robots were instantly engulfed in the explosion. Meanwhile, the three from the academy seized the chance to escape. At that moment, the mechanical president said to Lan Qi, "Cleaning up the zombies is everyone's responsibility." Lan Qi was left speechless. At the same time, the zombie was coldly staring at the robotic president. The man felt a sudden chill run down his spine. He hurriedly summoned the remaining robots. The zombie showed no concern at all. However, the next second, the zombie's attack swiftly passed by them. Fortunately, they reacted quickly, barely avoiding a fatal blow. But the robotic president had already been dismembered by the zombie. He even wants to have another go at Jiang Si. Saying this, he combines all his strength and charges at Jiang Si. Then the two of them start fighting again. The surrounding buildings are instantly destroyed by the shockwaves from their attacks. The two who just ran out thought they were safe after escaping from one district. This Jiang Si not only became more imposing, even their personality changed. Thinking this, the two hurriedly left. However, the mechanical president still hasn't realized the seriousness of the problem. He continues to mock Jiang Si. At this moment, Jiang Si coldly said, "Earlier, I already gave you a chance to negotiate. So now, tell me, how do you want to die?" Jianxi and the other person sensed something was wrong. The president is in trouble. And when the zombie just awakened its second form, the world underwent a tremendous change. The clouds roiled. It was as if the heavens themselves were bowing to him. The president closest to Jiang Si was nearly suffocated by this overwhelming pressure. "Giving you a chance is useless now." How strong is the zombie in its second form? Just a single punch. The entire crust of the state has turned over. The strongest president of the Human Academy was toyed with and ruthlessly trampled under his hand. These few people almost couldn't handle it. Even the strongest, the big leader, felt fear. He thought to himself, "What on earth is this creature?" Meanwhile, the zombie that was continuously battered was furious. "Little human." At this moment, the man thought to himself that it must be dead this time. However, the next second left him shocked once again. He saw Jiang Si slowly walking out from the dust. Then Jiang Si let out a furious roar to the sky. And just with that one roar, everything the laser passed turned to ashes. Even the construction company president, Lan Qi, was shocked. This was the first time he had seen the big president unleash his full power. After this strike, the spot where the zombie stood was empty. But even so, the man had no intention of letting Jiang Si go. Then a murderous look appeared on his face. The zombie must die. After saying this, he unleashed a devastating laser attack from his chest. Then he leaped into the air, arriving above the zombie. What followed was a one-sided beatdown of the zombie. Even one of Jiang Si's teeth was knocked out. He then punched Jiang Si to the ground. He said he never negotiates with zombies. As he spoke, he quickly charged at the zombie. The mechanized man was not only faster, but his attacks were also stronger. Before the zombie could react, he punched it into the sky. As it approaches the man, it unexpectedly disassembles into countless parts. In the next second, these parts directly attach themselves to the man. The zombie, seeing this scene, is also confused. Once the smoke clears, the big boss has surprisingly turned into a machine. Too bad. As he said this, he directly lifted his shirt, revealing that half-mechanical arm. At the same time, a robot is rushing quickly towards this side. This made the two people nearby so shocked that they stuttered while speaking. "President, look, his head has regrown." At that moment, the zombie slowly said, "Let's talk. I don't want to hurt you." The man looked at the zombie with indifference and said, "You want to control my mind, don't you?" At the same time, the CEO's face darkened completely. It looked like he was about to get serious. At that moment, something suddenly seemed to be growing wildly from the zombie's neck. In the blink of an eye, the zombie's head suddenly grew back. But unexpectedly, the zombie easily evaded it. The man was suddenly shocked. He never expected a headless zombie to still have such sharp reflexes. Realizing the danger, he quickly distanced himself from the zombie. Meanwhile, the two onlookers, Jian and Shi, were also stunned. Then, it quickly reached out its large hand towards the president. The man hadn't reacted when the ginger was already in front of him. However, the man was the strongest president of the Human Academy. After dodging the zombie's attack, he unleashed his laser cannon again. They immediately launched a laser attack on the zombie. In the next second, a violent explosion occurred at the zombie's location, and the big president took this opportunity to create some distance. But the next second, a look of shock appeared on his face. He saw the headless ginger standing with an air of dominance on the robot's corpse. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of him. In the next second, he was punched into the wall by the zombie. At this moment, the big president, who was being choked by the zombie, had no ability to resist. Just then, several figures suddenly appeared behind the zombie. This way, it will lose all ability to move. Sorry, zombie. This isn't a place for you. Just at that moment, the zombie suddenly charged at Dasha with lightning speed. They are fools. I am not. I don't know what the school gatekeeper is doing. They don't even notice strange things coming in. But luckily, the previous strike successfully knocked off the zombie's head. The big boss had already raised the laser cannon and aimed it at the zombie's head. In the next second, a laser burst out. Before the zombie could react, its head was blown off. The two who followed nearly got taken out as well. At this moment, the big boss stood still. What is this place? Weren't you supposed to take me to register? And the big boss's expression gradually darkened. Zombie, when did you learn to speak human language? Just when the zombie was still confused about whether the man was talking to him. Is the vice president competent? No registration is required. Let's follow them for a bit. Soon, several people arrived at the abandoned factory in the suburbs. At this moment, the zombie also seemed to sense something unusual. He also mentioned that the position of vice president will be honored as promised. But before that, you need to come with me to register first. Afterward, he took Jiang Si and left the academy square. At this moment, the two who were building also started discussing. Everyone looked at him with shock and fear. For a moment, everyone was whispering and discussing Jiang Si. Even the gazes of the two presidents towards him had changed. It seems everyone is afraid of his ability to control human thoughts. Only the president of the Mechanical Society praised his performance. Those people are definitely not to be underestimated. Dr. Jemming, however, had an indifferent attitude. Anyway, the experiment was almost complete. Their arrival was just in time for them to witness the birth of this great new species. At that moment, Jiang Si had just walked out of the interrogation room. Far away in City H, Dr. Jimming also learned that his subordinate had betrayed him. But he was not the least bit flustered. In fact, he was even looking forward to the Human Academy coming to find him sooner. Meanwhile, the mushroom head was worried about him. But that puts you in danger. And walked outside itself, saying in zombie language that you are really annoying. I have implanted a suicide virus in your mind. You figure it out yourself. The man nodded obediently in response. The zombie was very angry. So where is Dr. Jemin now? The man stated that he is 500 meters underground in the ruined city. After getting the answer he wanted, the zombie made him turn around. But first, he had to release the berserk serum in order to control the zombies. Next, the zombies and humans would fight each other to gather combat data on abnormal humans. Upon hearing his answer, then let me ask you, the zombie in the pit was always very obedient before. Why did it suddenly lose control? But the man's response shocked everyone again. Because Dr. Jemming said he was going to do something great. The crowd outside the interrogation room was also shocked by this scene. The president can actually control people's minds. At this moment, the zombie continued to ask him, you are that Dr. Jemming's confidant. You should know quite a bit. In an instant, they directly rushed into his brain's nerves. At this point, the zombie slowly said, stand up. In the next second, the man uncontrollably stood up. When the zombie asked him his name, he answered without hesitation. The man became even more arrogant upon seeing this. He shouted that Ginger was no better than a mosquito. He didn't know. This was just the beginning of his nightmare. The wound he had was invaded by countless cells at that moment. The man looked at Jiang Si with disdain. "You little shrimp soldiers should give up. I will never betray Brother Min." And just as he finished speaking, Jiang Si cut the man's arm with his hand, leaving only a tiny wound. That the zombie's actions were also for his own zombie survival, because the obedient zombies under him kept going out of control. So he decided to ask this human. Perhaps he would know something. Then he walked into the interrogation room. As soon as Xiao Xiao heard this, he immediately recommended him to the president. But he didn't understand why the usually low-key zombie suddenly became so proactive. What he didn't know was, their methods were so absurd that even Zilin couldn't stand it. At that moment, Xiao Xiao turned to Jiangxi and asked, "Can you make him talk?" Jiangxi, with his hands in his pockets, calmly replied, "Yes, let him sing," rushing to be the first to interrogate the traitor. However, after 2 hours, not only did they fail to get any information, they nearly drove themselves crazy. They even resorted to burning incense and praying. Now, with no other options, they had to seek help from the new recruits. The chief even promised that whoever made him talk would become the deputy chief. As soon as this was announced, everyone was fired up with enthusiasm. Everything was just humans on the other side. And the big president's action was just to pry open the traitor's mouth, to reveal Dr. Jimming's hiding place. During the interrogation, they even used the tiger bench torture and the bow torture, but still couldn't make him talk. "Nuclear bombs are going to blow me up." According to reliable sources, this person is actually a trusted aide of Dr. Jimming. Jiang Si understood upon hearing this. It turns out the zombie apocalypse had long passed. What can we do? At that moment, the CEO told the robot beside him to turn on the camera. The next second, a figure appeared on the screen in front of everyone. The person on camera was the human traitor who previously launched a nuclear bomb. Ginger saw it and instantly exploded with anger. It's that kid. Now, it is even more afraid to reveal its identity. And the big boss is making such a big deal out of it. It turns out it was just to ask the trainees for a favor. The trainees were also confused. If the CEO can't handle it within his jurisdiction, even if a single zombie appears, he will squeeze it dry. As soon as the zombie hears this, it is instantly scared and breaks into a cold sweat. Out of tens of thousands of test subjects, he was the only one who survived. After Dr. Jimming became a wanted man, he went on to establish the Mechanical Life Society, and managing a city with a population of 50 million. The president is more important, but he's always extremely polite to Ziling. Even the nearby zombie got jealous watching him. At this moment, the zombie asked, "Is this chief really powerful?" Turns out, he was part of Dr. Jimming's last group of humans in biological research. Even Jiangxi was forced to lower her head by Xiao Xiao. As the man walked past Lanqi, he glared at him fiercely. "Don't cause trouble here." Lanqi had no choice but to give up. After all, compared to Jiangxi, at that moment, a man suddenly walked in. This man was the president of the Mechanical Life Society. The moment he walked in, everyone bowed their heads and shouted, "Hello, President." At the same time, Lanqi was also observing him. Just then, the man in black said, "Look at him. He doesn't seem very smart. He's not that impressive. Let me go meet him." Soon, he and Jiang Si arrived at the indoor gym. At that moment, Xiao Xiao suddenly asked, "Hey, Jiang Si, can you eat while wearing a mask?" Upon hearing this, Jiang Si's blood pressure instantly spiked, and thus began another round of tense and exciting explanations. Little Xiao is instantly dumbfounded. What family? Fortunately, at that moment, the school broadcast suddenly announced for first-year students to gather at the indoor gym. Xiao Xiao looked reluctant, thinking, "Didn't we just gather?" But he had no choice but to follow the academy's orders. While the teacher is explaining, the zombie is frantically taking notes. Little Xiao, seeing this, curiously moves closer and asks what the zombie is doing. The zombie, focused on taking notes, casually replies, "I'm taking notes to tell my family later." Even used seduction to make Dao shoot Xiao Wu. He revealed all of Jiang Si's information, and Xiao Wu could only silently pray that Jiang Si would hold his ground. Meanwhile, in the classroom, the teacher is explaining how to use a zombie's hobbies to set traps and capture them alive. She walked in front of Xiao Wu and said, "Tell me, what's his name? Is he here now?" Two women are actually fighting over a zombie. President Lan Qi of the construction company, to get Jiang Si. At that moment, Xiao Wu said he is very strong. "When I rushed over, I suddenly felt everything go dark. In less than a second, I was hung up on a telephone pole. Even our club president is no match for him." The girls suddenly became interested after hearing this. The president was speechless after hearing their requests. One hides weapons in his crotch. The other doesn't want to be naked. Meanwhile, A girl was lazily sitting on the ground during the construction. Kneeling across from her was the girl who had fought the zombies before, Xiao Wu. In the end, with Xiao Xiao's strong guarantee, the president finally relaxed. But he still cautiously asked the zombie guy what kind of equipment he needed. The zombie explained that every time he finishes his work, he goes home naked. So, he wanted clothes that wouldn't tear. It's just someone wearing a zombie mask. The president was very agitated. Am I stupid? Or are your eyes on your butts? This is clearly a zombie. The nearby zombie was so scared, it stood there trembling and carefully examined this new recruit. But the next second, he screamed in fright. Oh my god, a zombie. Xiao Xiao quickly explained, it's a zombie. It's not a zombie. Excitedly, he said, I need gear that can carry more weapons. Preferably something that can fit a Gatling gun in the crotch. Such a bizarre request even left the president speechless for a moment. Then he approached the zombie. Before the zombie could make a sound, a woman's voice was heard. The acting president of the biology club said, take a look and see what kind of gear you need. As soon as she finished speaking, little Zhao's eyes lit up. The zombie suddenly noticed a group photo placed on the table. A brief explanation. This is Dr. Gemin's former president of the biology club. He was expelled and wanted by the academy for conducting perverse illegal biological research. The academy even issued a shoot-on-sight order. But Jiang Si is not interested in any of this because he has his own city to tend to. Then, Xiao Xiao brought the zombie to the biotechnology club. This is a place specifically for trainees to research weapons. Just then, not only can he command an army, but he can also freely use tanks, planes, and cannons, and even has the authority to use nuclear weapons. At the same time, he manages a metropolis with tens of millions of residents. Even the mayor is merely a tool for him to manage the lives of the citizens. Then he held up the passing grade report and asked if he could go home. Xiao Xiao was suddenly shocked. What are you joking about? You're supposed to become the president someday. Take Xiling as an example. Fearing that they might be the next unlucky ones. Even President Chen was deeply impressed by his maneuver. At that moment, Xiao Xiao ran over and asked how far he had thrown it. Jiang Si said he didn't know either. He just threw it up randomly. With a soft whoosh, it gave the satellite a refreshing chill. And the javelin showed no signs of slowing down, but it charged towards the moon. The next moment, the entire moon was pierced with a big hole. Even the space meteors couldn't help but break into a cold sweat at this sight. He threw the javelin with all his might. In that instant, the entire exam hall was crushed beneath his feet. The accompanying shockwave sent the other candidates flying. Even President Chen couldn't help but mutter, holy shit. Meanwhile, the javelin Jiang Si threw had already soared into space. To avoid being captured by humans and turned into a zombie fitness machine, I can only keep racing against sharks every day. So, I think to myself, I should throw as far as I can. With that, I raised the javelin in my hand. As the red light in his eyes glowed, the zombie was completely dumbfounded at that moment. Ever since I became a zombie, I have been living a life of hiding every day. Although I can't remember many things now, the school should be where I used to chase myself around. Show us all your strength. If you can throw it 3 kilometers, then you can be jealous. Otherwise, you are deceiving us. Then I will charge you with espionage. Yet you seem so hesitant. Could it be that you're a zombie? Seeing this, the zombie was completely flustered. He quickly waved his hands to explain that he is human. In that case, but your grades are just barely passing. Are you serious? Or are you just pretending? Jiang Si was instantly startled by his words. At this moment, Chen added that the people here wished they could unleash all their power. But at that moment, the examiner, Chen, called a stop to Jiang Si. In an instant, the attention of the people around turned towards them. At this time, Chen stepped forward and asked, you are Jiang Si, right? I heard from Zilin that your strength is very impressive. Seeing this scene, Jiang Si felt a chill below. The next participant in the assessment was Jiang Si. While passing by Hong Mao, she was ruthlessly looked down upon by him. Seeing this, Jiang Si ignored Huang Mao. Instead, she stepped forward to pick up the spear to prepare for the assessment. A man threw the javelin with all his might. The javelin shot out like a cannonball. In the next second, it pierced through the scarecrow. The powerful impact directly strung several scarecrows together like candied hawthorn and shot out of the test area. It only stopped after flying to a sign 32 kilometers away. Because the president of the Blade Society, Lin, said his skills are strong, yet all his scores just barely meet the passing line. Could it be that he's deliberately acting for me? Or is there something else behind this? Soon, it was time for the javelin throw. He would do it in 3.01 seconds. Others throw the shot put 80 meters to pass. He throws at 80.01 meters. But even though he stays low-key, he still caught the examiner's attention. Everything he did was just to make friends with humans. To avoid attracting attention, he had to control his power. Every time, his test scores were just above the passing line. If others needed 3 seconds to pass the 100 meters. At night, he also has to follow Kuan-gu and dance to Iron Mountain Cannon a few times before he can sleep soundly. While other zombies upgrade and evolve, the only food he sees is vegetable salad and protein powder. Finally, he became bald. And he became strong. Do you know how scary a zombie would be if it started working out? His name is Zombie. He has been working out for 2.5 years. His daily task is to run endlessly on the treadmill. After that, he has to swim around the earth 2.5 times.